For millennia, humanity has gazed upon the remnants of its ancient past, monuments, artifacts, and structures that defy all logic and explanation. How did the ancients achieve such feats? What knowledge did they possess that has vanished from the record? From the unfathomable precision of megalithic structures to the eerie purpose of long-forgotten rituals, there are mysteries that continue to haunt us. Tonight, we delve into 3 hours of unsolved riddles, mysteries that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. Join us as we unravel the enigma, step by shadowy step, and seek the answers that still elude us. High above the rugged valleys of southeastern Sicily, hidden within the thick groves of Mediterranean pine and olive trees, lies a place that seems untouched by time, a place where the veil between the past and the present feels thin, even fragile. The Necropolis of Pantalica is a forgotten world, a vast cemetery etched into the limestone cliffs, its countless tombs and rock-cut chambers reaching toward the sky like silent sentinels of a long-lost civilization. Carved into the rock face over 2,000 years ago, this ancient burial site is home to more than 5,000 tombs. Some date back to the 13th century BC during the Late Bronze Age, while others were used well into the 8th century BC. The scale of the site is staggering, yet its true purpose remains shrouded in mystery. The tombs, simple holes, elaborate chambers, and even monumental burial vaults offer no clear answers. Who were the people of Pantalica, and why did they choose this remote and inhospitable location to rest their dead? The necropolis is named after the ancient town of Pantalica, though little is known about the civilization that once inhabited the area. Archaeologists have pieced together some fragments of its story, pottery, tools, and the remains of settlements. But these traces provide only a glimpse into a culture that left no written records. Theories abound, but none are conclusive. Some believe that the inhabitants of Pantalica were part of the ancient Sicilian tribes, living in isolation from the Mediterranean powers of the time. Others suggest that they were a people of a more complex society, perhaps linked to the Phoenicians or even the early Greeks. As one ventures deeper into the heart of Pantalica, something striking becomes apparent. Many of the tombs are not simply hollowed out. They are carefully crafted, with intricate designs and deliberate orientations. It is as though the people of Pantalica were not just concerned with burying their dead, but with ensuring that their souls found peace in a place that would transcend the earthly realm. Some tombs, especially those carved into the cliffs, are positioned so that the dead face toward the rising sun, hinting at a belief system that revered the cycle of life and death. But why here? Why in these remote hills, far from the bustling cities of ancient Sicily? Adding to the enigma is the complex network of caves and natural features that surround the necropolis. These caves, some of which were used as homes and places of worship, suggest that the region was inhabited long before the construction of the tombs. Were the tombs simply part of a larger, more extensive cultural landscape, or was Pantalica itself a place of deep spiritual significance? It's hard to ignore the possibility that the site may have been more than a burial ground. Could it have been a place of ritual, a sacred center for the people of the time? Despite the best efforts of archaeologists and historians, much of Pantalica's story remains hidden. Recent studies have uncovered a few surprises. Evidence of complex trade routes, links to distant cultures, and even mysterious symbols carved into the rock faces, symbols that defy clear interpretation. Some suggest they could be early forms of writing, while others argue that they are merely decorative, their meaning lost to history. The questions only multiply. Were the people of Pantalica an isolated society, or were they part of a larger web of Mediterranean civilizations, perhaps even connected to the enigmatic ancient civilizations of the Eastern Mediterranean? Why did they abandon this site, and what happened to their descendants? And why did they choose to construct such a sprawling and elaborate necropolis in such a remote location, surrounded by cliffs and forests, far from the urban centers of the time? The more one looks at Pantalica, the more the mystery deepens. It is a place where history, mythology, and the unknown all collide, where answers are elusive and explanations tentative at best. The necropolis of Pantalica stands not just as a burial site, but as a testament to a lost world, one that continues to resist all attempts at full understanding. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. What are we missing in the shadow of this ancient monument? What secrets does this forgotten landscape still hold, waiting to be uncovered? From the limestone cliffs of Sicily to the remote deserts of South America, the ancient world is full of forgotten places, their histories buried beneath the sands of time. As we continue our journey, we move from one mysterious necropolis to another, shifting our gaze to the vast, arid plains of southern Peru. Here, amid the desolation of the Nazca Desert, lies the ancient site of Cahuachi, a once thriving ceremonial center whose secrets remain largely hidden. Unlike the serene, isolated tombs of Pantalica, Cahuachi was a sprawling city, built on the banks of the Rio Grande de Nazca. From a distance, the site seems like little more than a scattering of earthen mounds and broken structures, but beneath the surface, a different story is told. Over the centuries, archaeologists have uncovered impressive pyramids, vast ceremonial platforms, and intricate pottery. But for all its grandeur, Cahuachi's purpose remains elusive. The site flourished between approximately 1000 BC and 500 AD during the time of the Nazca culture, a civilization known for their enigmatic geoglyphs, massive, mysterious figures etched into the desert floor, some visible only from the sky. But while the Nazca lines are celebrated for their scope and intrigue, Cahuachi itself has attracted a quieter, more puzzling attention. As one walks through Cahuachi's sun-scorched avenues, the first thing that stands out is the sheer scale of the complex. Monumental pyramids, built from adobe and clay, rise from the earth like ancient sentinels, their slopes weathered by centuries of wind and rain. These structures, once painted in bright colors and adorned with ceremonial murals, were undoubtedly impressive in their time. But the true mystery lies in the purpose of these buildings. Why were such massive resources dedicated to a site that, by most accounts, appears to have been primarily ceremonial? There's little evidence to suggest that Cahuachi was a bustling urban center with permanent dwellings or markets. Instead, it seems to have served a specific function, one tied to ritual, religion, and perhaps a profound connection to the cosmos. What's even more curious is that, unlike other ancient cities, Cahuachi shows no signs of military activity or conquest. It doesn't appear to have been a site of political power in the conventional sense. Its people did not appear to build walls or fortifications. Instead, the focus was on monumental architecture, elaborate ceremonial structures, and the careful placement of ritual objects. The presence of hundreds of burials, many with offerings of ceramics, textiles, and gold, further points to Cahuachi's religious significance. Was it a pilgrimage site, a sacred center where the living came to commune with the divine? Or was it something more, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead were intentionally blurred? Intriguingly, evidence suggests that the Nazca people, despite their advanced knowledge of art and architecture, may have also possessed an understanding of astronomy. The layout of Cahuachi itself seems to have been aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Some structures appear to have been built with precise orientations to the solstices and equinoxes, while others seem to mark celestial events, such as eclipses. But why such an emphasis on the heavens? Was Cahuachi a place of astrological observation where rituals were performed to honor the celestial bodies? Or did the Nazca people believe that their gods resided among the stars, making Cahuachi a literal bridge between heaven and earth? The more one investigates, the more questions arise. The Nazca were master craftsmen, creating elaborate pottery and textiles, many of which have been found in Cahuachi's burial sites. But these objects often feature symbols and motifs that seem to defy easy interpretation. Some of the ceramics depict strange, otherworldly creatures, beings that seem more fantastical than earthly. Were these depictions simply the result of artistic imagination, or did they serve a deeper symbolic purpose? Were they representations of gods, ancestors, or even extraterrestrial beings, as some fringe theorists suggest? Could the Nazca have believed in beings from the sky, coming down to guide or influence their civilization? Despite numerous excavations, Cahuachi's mysteries only seem to deepen. Why did the site decline so abruptly around 500 AD? Evidence suggests that the area was abandoned in a short span of time, with no clear explanation as to why. Was it due to environmental changes, such as prolonged drought or a shift in the region's water supply? Or could it have been the result of a shift in the religious or political landscape, with the people of Nazca abandoning Cahuachi in favor of new centers of power and belief? Adding to the intrigue is the question of why Cahuachi was seemingly not rediscovered until the modern era. While the Nazca lines have been well known since their discovery in the 1920s, Cahuachi remained largely obscured, hidden beneath layers of desert sand and time. It wasn't until the 1940s that systematic archaeological digs began to uncover the scale of the site. And yet, despite decades of study, much of Cahuachi remains unexplored, with vast sections of the site still buried beneath the shifting desert sands. What else lies hidden beneath the earth at Cahuachi, waiting to be uncovered? What secrets of the Nazca people might still be locked away, perhaps in unexcavated tombs or untouched ceremonial spaces? The more one learns about Cahuachi, the more one is drawn into a mystery that resists clear answers. Was this a place of deep spiritual significance, a nexus between the material and the divine? Or was it a forgotten monument to a lost culture, one whose knowledge of the heavens and the earth remains hidden from us? Cahuachi's purpose may remain forever elusive, but its presence stands as a testament to a people who looked to the skies, who built with intention and purpose, and who, perhaps, left us with more questions than answers. The site is more than just a relic of the past. It is a portal to a time and a culture that continues to resist full understanding. And as we continue to uncover the mysteries of the ancient world, the question lingers: what knowledge from the distant past is still waiting to be revealed? As we continue our journey through the mysterious realms of the ancient world, we find ourselves on the sun-kissed island of Crete, a place where history is as deep as the sea itself. Here, beneath the rolling hills and amidst the olive groves, lies Malia, a city of the Minoan civilization, one of the most advanced and enigmatic cultures of the ancient Mediterranean. At first glance, the site appears to be a typical archaeological ruin: scattered stones, broken walls, and fragments of once immense buildings. But beneath these ruins, the remains of a powerful civilization whisper a tale far more complex than it first appears. Malia, like its more famous counterpart Knossos, was once a thriving urban center, a place of commerce, culture, and religion. Located along the northern coast of Crete, the city dates back to at least the 2nd millennium BC. During its height, Malia was a key player in the Minoan world, a civilization that spanned the Aegean, with trade networks reaching as far as Egypt, the Near East, and even Palestine. The Minoans, often hailed as the first European civilization, left behind a legacy that remains both fascinating and puzzling. They were master builders, artists, and traders, but their sudden disappearance around 1450 BC has left many questions unanswered. As you stand among the ruins of Malia, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of the site. Unlike the sprawling palace complexes of Knossos, Malia's layout seems more compact, yet equally sophisticated. The city is divided into multiple areas, each with its own distinct purpose. Large administrative buildings, storerooms filled with pottery, and what seem to be grand reception halls all suggest that Malia was a place of significant political and economic activity. But it is the central complex, the so-called palace, that draws the most attention. Though smaller than Knossos, it too exhibits the telltale signs of Minoan grandeur: frescoes, intricate pottery, and expansive courtyards. But there is a stark contrast here that raises immediate questions. Unlike Knossos, which was largely restored in the 20th century, Malia's palace remains more or less as it was when it was abandoned over 3,500 years ago. Why was this site left to crumble while others were rebuilt? The mystery deepens as we explore the city's complex network of storage rooms and workshops. The Minoans were known for their expertise in metallurgy, pottery, and weaving, and Malia's workshops provide evidence of their advanced techniques. But one of the most intriguing discoveries at Malia involves a series of strange symbols found throughout the site. Carved into stone slabs, inscribed on pottery, and even painted on the walls of various rooms, these symbols have puzzled archaeologists for decades. While the Minoans are thought to have used a form of writing known as Linear A, which remains undeciphered to this day, the symbols at Malia do not seem to match anything from the established scripts. Some speculate that they might represent a local variation of writing or even a completely different system of communication. Could these symbols hold the key to understanding not just Malia, but the entire Minoan civilization? As we dig deeper into Malia's mysteries, we begin to encounter even more perplexing elements. The city, like many other Minoan sites, was built with an extraordinary attention to detail. Some buildings were constructed with walls that included complex drainage systems, suggesting an advanced understanding of engineering. Yet, despite this impressive infrastructure, there is a noticeable absence of defensive structures. Unlike many ancient cities, Malia shows no signs of fortifications, such as walls or towers designed to protect the city from invaders. Given the volatile nature of the ancient world, this raises a troubling question. Was Malia an island of peace, a place where security was never a concern? Or was there something more to the city's design, something that remains hidden beneath the surface? Further adding to the mystery are the artifacts that have been uncovered at the site. Among the pottery, tools, and frescoes, archaeologists have found strange figurines and small statues that do not resemble the typical Minoan art style. Some of these objects depict human figures, but with exaggerated features: long limbs, wide eyes, and elongated necks. Were these simply artistic exaggerations, or could they be representations of something more significant, perhaps gods or otherworldly beings? Minoan art often depicts ceremonial scenes and mythical creatures, but these figures are unusual even by their standards. Could they offer a glimpse into a belief system that we have yet to fully understand? Despite these tantalizing discoveries, Malia's fate remains a mystery in itself. Unlike other Minoan sites that were eventually destroyed by natural disasters, such as the volcanic eruption on the island of Thera, Malia appears to have simply been abandoned. The city was never rebuilt, and the reasons for its decline are still unclear. Was it the result of internal political upheaval, a change in trade routes, or a cultural shift? Some theories suggest that a collapse in the Minoan trade network, perhaps due to the eruption of Thera around 1450 BC, led to the city's demise. Others propose that Malia, like other Minoan cities, may have fallen victim to invasions from outside forces, such as the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece. Yet there is no definitive evidence to support these theories, and the lack of any clear destruction layers at the site only adds to the confusion. Another question that lingers is why Malia's ruins have remained relatively undisturbed. Unlike Knossos, which was extensively excavated and reconstructed during the 20th century, Malia has remained relatively untouched. the site has not received the same level of attention, and much of it still lies buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. What might lie beneath the surface? Are there still secrets hidden in the city's unexcavated corners, waiting to reveal their answers to the questions that have plagued archaeologists for generations? As we walk through the quiet ruins of Malia, it is hard not to feel the weight of the questions that remain unanswered. The city, with its mysterious symbols, strange figurines, and sudden abandonment, offers more questions than answers. The Minoans, with all their advanced knowledge and cultural sophistication, left behind a legacy that continues to baffle scholars. Was Malia just another city in the Minoan world, or was it a place of deeper significance, one that may hold the key to understanding the rise and fall of an entire civilization? The enigma of Malia endures, its secrets still buried in the sands of time. What did the Minoans know, and what did they leave behind for us to discover? As we continue our journey through the bizarre and unexplained, the mystery of Malia invites us to look deeper, to question what we think we know, and to wonder just how much more remains to be uncovered. As we continue our exploration of the ancient world, we shift our focus from the Minoans' enigmatic city of Malia to the arid landscapes of Palestine, where the remnants of Herodium rise sharply against the horizon. At first glance, Herodium may appear as just another desert ruin, a crumbling hilltop fortress in the Judean wilderness. But as we dig deeper, we uncover a fascinating story of power, ambition, and mystery, one that involves not only the ruler who built it, but the profound questions that still linger about the site's purpose, its construction, and the secrets it may still hold. The towering ruins of Herodium are unlike any other fortress in the ancient world. Perched high on a man-made mound, it stands as both a fortress and a monumental symbol of the reign of King Herod the Great, the ruler of Palestine from 37 BC to 4 BC. Herod, known for his ambitious construction projects, including the expansion of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, was a ruler obsessed with leaving behind a legacy of grandeur. The Herodium, built in the form of a grand hilltop palace and fortress, was designed not only to protect him from potential enemies, but also to stand as a symbol of his power and divine right to rule. The structure itself is awe-inspiring. From the base of the mound, the view of the fortress ascending in layers feels almost unnatural, as if the very earth itself has been sculpted to create a kingdom in the sky. Built into the side of a natural hill, Herodium is actually a man-made mountain, a colossal feat of engineering. Herod's engineers and laborers created a massive artificial mound, covering a vast network of buildings, tunnels, and underground chambers. At the top of this artificial peak stood a palace, complete with elaborate frescoes, pools, and gardens, all designed to reflect the opulence of Herod's reign. But what makes Herodium even more intriguing is the way it has been preserved, and the secrets it may still be hiding. It is said that after Herod's death, the site fell into relative obscurity, only to be rediscovered in modern times. Excavations, which began in the 20th century, have revealed remarkable discoveries, including a well-preserved tomb thought to be Herod's final resting place. Yet, despite these findings, the site remains shrouded in mystery. What was the true purpose of Herodium? Was it merely a palace, a fortress, or was there something deeper at play here? One of the most puzzling elements of Herodium is its strange location. Unlike many other palaces and fortresses of the time, which were built near urban centers or places of strategic importance, Herodium sits far from any significant city or trade route. Why would a ruler like Herod, who was known for his political shrewdness and his desire to leave behind a lasting legacy, build such an imposing structure in a relatively remote location? Some scholars argue that Herodium's position was chosen specifically for its strategic advantages. Its height and isolation would have made it an ideal place for Herod to retreat in times of danger. Others suggest that Herodium may have been constructed to symbolize Herod's divine kingship, elevating him not just in the eyes of his people, but in the eyes of the gods. Was it meant to be a temple of sorts, a place where he could commune with the divine and secure his reign? The mystery deepens when we consider the discoveries that have been made within the Herodium's tomb. In 2007, excavations uncovered a large burial site, which included a monumental tomb thought to belong to Herod himself. The tomb, remarkably intact, contained impressive artifacts and inscriptions, some of which suggested a lavish burial befitting a king. However, there are still unanswered questions about the tomb's exact identity and significance. Some scholars have questioned whether the tomb truly belongs to Herod, with theories ranging from it being the burial place of another member of his family to suggestions that it could even have been a tomb constructed to reflect his aspirations for immortality rather than his actual burial site. Adding another layer of intrigue to the site is the discovery of what appears to be a hidden chamber beneath the fortress. In recent years, archaeologists have uncovered a complex network of tunnels and rooms beneath the palace complex. Some of these chambers appear to have been intentionally sealed, their doors locked shut with stone walls. What were these rooms used for? Were they secret spaces for ritual purposes, hidden treasures, or perhaps even darker secrets tied to Herod's reign? Given Herod's reputation for paranoia and brutality, he was known to execute even members of his own family. Could these hidden chambers have been used to conceal secrets or protect valuables from rivals? Herodium also presents a unique architectural mystery. The fortress was built to withstand both military sieges and the test of time, but the use of complex water systems and the design of the palace seem to suggest a site built not just for defense, but for luxury and leisure. Some experts speculate that Herodium may have been designed as a grand spectacle, a place that served both as a defensive stronghold and a place where Herod could display his wealth and power. The site includes impressive features such as an amphitheater, royal gardens, and even a large man-made pool. But why would a ruler, living in a turbulent era of political unrest, choose to build such an extravagant and complex structure far from the heart of his kingdom? And then there is the curious case of Herod's death. According to historical accounts, Herod's final years were marked by illness and paranoia, culminating in his death in 4 BC. The fact that Herodium was never fully completed, despite its monumental scale, has led some to speculate that it was abandoned or altered in the wake of his death. Was Herod's death part of the reason for the sudden halt in construction, or did something else occur at the site that led to its eventual decline? Today, Herodium stands as a monumental testament to Herod's grandeur, but it also raises more questions than answers. Was it simply a symbol of a king's wealth and power, or was it something more? A place where the boundaries between the earthly and the divine were blurred? What secrets remain buried beneath its towering ruins, waiting to be uncovered by future generations of archaeologists? Herodium's mystery endures, its walls echoing the ambitions of a ruler whose desire for immortality may have shaped the very landscape around him. And as we continue to explore the bizarre and unexplained, the questions surrounding this ancient site remain tantalizingly open, urging us to wonder, what truths, hidden in plain sight, might still lie within the shadow of Herodium's towering walls? As we move from the heights of Herodium, buried in the desert sands of Palestine, we travel across the expanse of the American Southwest, where the ancient mysteries of the Pecos Pueblo quietly echo across the arid plains. Nestled in the foothills of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in New Mexico, Pecos Pueblo is a site whose very existence calls into question our understanding of ancient societies in North America. A sprawling, once thriving community, Pecos Pueblo was at the heart of the ancestral lands of the Tewa people, a group that flourished in the region long before the arrival of European settlers. But like so many ancient ruins, Pecos raises more questions than it answers. The first impression of Pecos Pueblo is striking. A silent, open space where the remnants of stone and adobe dwellings stand in stark contrast against the vast sky. The ruins stretch across several acres, their outlines only faintly visible against the landscape. The original settlement, constructed over 1,000 years ago, was much larger, one of the largest Pueblo settlements in the southwest. At its peak, Pecos is thought to have housed over 1,000 people, making it a central hub of trade, culture, and spirituality. From the remnants of its ceremonial chambers to the traces of its intricate road systems, Pecos tells a story of a thriving, organized society. Yet, despite its significance, much about the site's history remains shrouded in mystery. Pecos Pueblo's history is entwined with the rise and fall of the great Puebloan cultures, who built sophisticated communities across the American Southwest. The city itself was established sometime around the 12th century AD, reaching its peak in the 14th century. It was a carefully planned urban center with multiple levels of structures built into the steep slopes of the surrounding hills. The buildings themselves were constructed from a combination of stone, adobe, and wood, designed to withstand both the intense sun and the seasonal storms of the region. But what stands out most about Pecos is its central plaza, an open space that was the beating heart of the community. It was here that ceremonial dances, social gatherings, and trade took place. The ruins of a large, multi-roomed structure near the plaza, thought to have been a kiva, a sacred ceremonial chamber, speak to the deep spiritual life of the people who once lived here. The kiva, built in a circular shape, was used for rituals that connected the people to the spirits of their ancestors, and perhaps to the forces of nature itself. Yet, despite this deep connection to the spiritual world, Pecos Pueblo was not immune to the challenges that all ancient societies face: war, famine, and environmental change. What makes the history of Pecos Pueblo particularly fascinating is the series of abrupt migrations that occurred among the Pueblo peoples in the late 14th and early 15th centuries. At the height of its prosperity, Pecos was a key point in a vast trade network that extended from the Great Basin to the Gulf of Mexico. It is believed that the people of Pecos traded goods such as turquoise, pottery, and cotton, but the site's importance was not just economic. It was also a cultural crossroads, a place where diverse peoples and ideas converged. Yet, just as suddenly as it had flourished, Pecos was abandoned. By the end of the 15th century, the Puebloans left, abandoning their homes, their ceremonial spaces, and their once thriving community. Why? For decades, historians and archaeologists have sought answers to this question. Many theories exist about the abandonment of Pecos Pueblo, but none provide a definitive answer. The most widely accepted explanation is that a combination of environmental factors, such as drought and resource depletion, forced the people to leave. The region had undergone significant climatic shifts during this period, with prolonged droughts threatening agricultural productivity. In such an arid environment, the survival of the people depended on the careful balance of water, crops, and trade. When this balance was disrupted, it may have forced them to migrate in search of more fertile lands. Yet, there are other, more speculative theories that suggest the reasons for the abandonment may have been more complex. Some believe that political upheaval or conflict with neighboring tribes may have led to the community's sudden decline. Pecos, being a cultural and trade center, may have attracted the attention of rival groups, which could have resulted in warfare or territorial disputes. Others suggest that a spiritual or religious crisis may have played a role. The Puebloans were deeply connected to their natural environment and their belief systems, which were tied to the rhythms of the earth, the sky, and the seasons. Could a failure of the land to provide sustenance have led to a profound crisis of faith, driving the people to leave their sacred spaces behind? Even more perplexing is the possibility that Pecos Pueblo may have been abandoned not just once, but multiple times throughout its history. Evidence suggests that the site may have been resettled and abandoned more than once. Was this a pattern of cyclical migrations, where the people returned to their ancestral homes only to leave again when conditions became untenable? Or were there larger, more mysterious forces at work, cultural or religious movements that prompted the people to leave in search of something else? The nature of these migrations also raises an intriguing question about the knowledge and practices that the people of Pecos may have carried with them. Could the people of Pecos have shared their advanced agricultural techniques, their unique architectural knowledge, and their spiritual beliefs with other tribes they encountered during their migrations? Or were these secrets lost, absorbed into the cultures of those who followed? The story of Pecos Pueblo may not just be one of a single city, but of an entire culture that endured, transformed, and dispersed across the vast landscapes of the American Southwest. Today, Pecos Pueblo stands as a reminder of a civilization that once thrived in this harsh, beautiful desert landscape. Its ruins continue to speak, though their language is not easily understood. As we wander through the silent halls of its ceremonial chambers and gaze across the vast plains from its ancient walls, we are reminded of how little we truly know about the people who lived here and what drove them to leave. Were they simply the victims of nature's cruelty, or was something more mysterious at play? What remains hidden beneath the surface of Pecos Pueblo? What knowledge, lost to time, might still lie buried in the ruins of this ancient city? The answers to these questions may never be fully known, but as we continue our exploration of ancient mysteries, we are left to wonder, how many more secrets are hidden in the soil, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to ask the right questions? From the windswept plains of the American Southwest, we now find ourselves in the ancient deserts of Iran, where the sun beats down mercilessly on a landscape that has long since witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. Here, in the heart of the Sistan-Baluchistan region, lies the Shahr-i-Sokhta, a city so mysterious that its very name translates to the Burnt City, a fitting moniker for a place whose story has been shaped by both fire and time. The city, with its faded ruins scattered across the vast expanse of the desert, offers one of the most enigmatic glimpses into a civilization that, for thousands of years, was forgotten. Shahr-i-Sokhta was once a thriving urban center, part of the ancient Indus Valley civilization's far-reaching trade network. Estimated to have been founded around 3200 BC, it was at its height around 2500 BC, making it one of the earliest urban settlements in human history. The site, sprawling over some 150 hectares, includes the remains of houses, temples, burial grounds, and industrial zones, evidence of a highly organized society that had mastered not just architecture and urban planning, but also art, trade, and possibly even early forms of writing. It's a city that tells of a time long before the great empires of the Middle East rose to power, yet its story remains largely untold. At first glance, Shahr-i-Sokhta might appear as little more than a scattering of clay and mud brick remnants, now half buried by the encroaching desert sands. But beneath these fragments, the traces of a sophisticated civilization linger, and what lies uncovered is only the beginning of the mystery. The sheer scale of the city is staggering, with its carefully laid streets, multi-room houses, and areas designated for pottery production, suggesting that Shahr-i-Sokhta was once a vibrant hub of commerce and culture. The discovery of a grand central cemetery containing hundreds of graves reveals the city's intricate social and religious life. Some graves contain elaborate burial goods, including pottery, jewelry, and even some of the earliest examples of painted textiles, evidence of a culture both rich and complex. but it is the mystery surrounding the city's sudden and violent destruction that continues to intrigue archaeologists and historians alike. Why did such a prosperous and advanced society vanish without a trace? The city's most notable feature, its tragic end, seems to be woven into the very fabric of its history, and yet no definitive answers have emerged to explain it. The site was abandoned sometime around 1800 BC, and no further trace of the people who once inhabited it seems to exist. The question remains: what caused the fall of Shahr-i-Sokhta? Archaeologists have found signs of intense heat at the site, including evidence of walls and structures that appear to have been scorched by fire. This, coupled with the discovery of charred bones and melted beads, suggests that the city may have experienced a devastating fire or series of fires. Some have speculated that this might have been the result of a natural disaster, such as a massive lightning storm or a fire ignited by an earthquake. But the evidence is inconclusive. Fires of such intensity would have required something far more than a mere accident. Could it have been an attack by a rival tribe or civilization? Or was there something more catastrophic at play here, an event so traumatic that it left no record behind? While fire appears to have played a significant role in the destruction of Shahr-i-Sokhta, there is a more unsettling aspect to the city's end. Evidence of a sudden desertification in the region suggests that environmental factors may have played a part in its collapse. The desertification could have been caused by changes in climate or the overexploitation of natural resources, factors that would have been disastrous for a city dependent on agriculture and trade. A shift in the water supply or an extended drought could have placed immense pressure on the population, leading to a slow decline followed by the eventual abandonment of the city. But again, no direct evidence links the environmental changes to the city's fall, leaving the cause of its destruction open to speculation. Adding to the complexity of the mystery is the unusual nature of Shahr-i-Sokhta's burial practices. In some of the graves, the bodies were found with their faces covered in copper masks, an intriguing and rare burial custom. Copper, an early metal in human history, had great symbolic value, and the use of such masks raises a host of questions. Were these masks purely decorative, or did they hold some deeper spiritual significance? Could they have been intended to protect the dead in the afterlife, or to symbolize a connection to gods or ancestors? Or could they have served another purpose altogether, one that remains hidden from us today? These masks, combined with the intricate jewelry and tools found with the dead, suggest that the people of Shahr-i-Sokhta had a complex belief system, possibly involving the worship of deities connected to fire, death, or the natural world. While Shahr-i-Sokhta's people have left behind objects and burial practices that hint at their spiritual beliefs, their written language remains a mystery. Despite extensive archaeological efforts, no clear examples of a writing system have been uncovered at the site. This absence of written records is puzzling, especially considering the highly organized nature of the city and its apparent connections to the broader Indus Valley civilization. The people of Shahr-i-Sokhta were engaged in trade with other great civilizations of the time, yet they left no written words to tell their story. Did they have a form of writing, one that simply hasn't survived the ravages of time? Or was their culture one that relied primarily on oral tradition, passing knowledge and stories down through generations without the need for written words? The connection between Shahr-i-Sokhta and the broader Indus Valley civilization is another area that continues to baffle scholars. Some believe that Shahr-i-Sokhta was a satellite settlement, a regional outpost of the great cities of the Indus Valley, such as Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. Artifacts uncovered at the site, such as cylinder seals and pottery styles, suggest a connection to the Indus Valley culture. But there is also a growing body of evidence to suggest that Shahr-i-Sokhta had unique features of its own, distinct from the mainstream practices of the Indus Valley. The distinctive style of architecture and the unique burial practices suggest that the people of Shahr-i-Sokhta might have been a more isolated, localized culture with their own traditions and ways of life. Was this city simply a trading outpost, or was it an independent civilization with its own beliefs, politics, and identity? As we look back at the story of Shahr-i-Sokhta, it is clear that the city's mystery endures. What caused the city's fall? Was it fire, environmental change, or something more sinister? And what does the absence of written records tell us about the people who once called this place home? The questions are many, and the answers are elusive. The city's ruins, scattered in the desert like fragments of a forgotten dream, offer no easy explanations. But they do speak to us, reminding us of a time long past, a civilization that flourished and then vanished, leaving only the faintest traces of its once great existence. Shahr-i-Sokhta, like so many ancient sites, reminds us that history is often fragmented, and the mysteries of the past are never truly gone. What else lies buried beneath the sands of time, waiting to be discovered? What truths about this lost civilization still remain hidden from our understanding? As we move forward, the story of Shahr-i-Sokhta is a reminder that even the most ancient of civilizations have secrets left to reveal, if we are willing to seek them. As we journey further into the heart of Europe, we find ourselves standing on a rugged, wind-swept hill in southern Bulgaria. Here, amid the dense forests of the Rhodope Mountains, lies the ancient sanctuary of Perperikon, a place shrouded in mystery and tied to the age-old stories of gods, kings, and forgotten civilizations. From the distance, Perperikon might appear like little more than an isolated rocky outcrop, but as you approach, the scale of the ruins becomes undeniable. Terraces cut into the rock, massive stone walls, and the faintest traces of a once great civilization, long buried beneath the weight of time. Perperikon was not just a city. It was a sacred site, an enigmatic complex, often referred to as the Balkan Stonehenge, due to its alignment with celestial events and its possible role in rituals related to the heavens. Its history stretches back to at least the 5th millennium BC, though its most significant period of prominence occurred around 1000 BC to 400 AD, when it was a major religious and cultural center of the ancient Thracians. The Thracians, a people who lived in the region long before the rise of Greece and Rome, were known for their warrior culture, their mystical beliefs, and their impressive architectural feats. At its peak, Perperikon was a flourishing town and religious complex, but it was also a place of power, strategically positioned on a high plateau that provided both a commanding view of the surrounding lands and a secure vantage point against invaders. One of the most striking features of Perperikon is its construction. The city is carved directly into the mountainside, with intricate stone pathways and monumental terraces that seem to rise effortlessly from the rock. The buildings, constructed from massive stone blocks, are both simple and sophisticated, reflecting the ancient engineering prowess of the Thracians. But what is perhaps most intriguing about the site is its connection to the divine. The centerpiece of Perperikon is a large temple complex believed to have been dedicated to Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, fertility, and ritual madness. This temple was said to have been the most important in the ancient Thracian world, and it attracted pilgrims from far and wide who came to honor the gods and seek prophecies. Evidence of this religious significance is scattered throughout the site. The remains of sacred altars, the remnants of sacrificial fires, and mysterious carved stone structures that might have been used for ceremonial purposes. In the heart of the temple complex, archaeologists discovered a stone throne, an enigmatic feature that some believe may have been used by an ancient high priest or ruler during religious ceremonies. The idea that this site could have been a spiritual nexus for an entire civilization adds an air of mystique to its already fascinating ruins. Yet, despite its religious significance, Perperikon's true function remains a mystery. Was it a center of pilgrimage, a place where the people of the ancient world came to seek divine guidance? Or was it something more, perhaps a center of political power, where rulers used the sanctity of the site to legitimize their reigns? The evidence suggests that Perperikon was both a religious and political hub, with the power to influence both the spiritual and earthly realms. But how did the Thracians, who were after all a relatively small and fragmented civilization, gain the resources and organization to create such an awe-inspiring site? The mystery of Perperikon's origins and rise to power is compounded by the ongoing enigma of its abandonment. Unlike many ancient civilizations which left behind clear reasons for their decline, be it invasion, famine, or internal collapse, Perperikon seems to have faded into obscurity without a clear explanation. The Thracians themselves were eventually absorbed by the Roman Empire, but the site's abandonment is not fully understood. Did the region experience a shift in religious practices, with the people moving away from their traditional beliefs toward those of the Romans? Or was Perperikon abandoned due to other factors, such as environmental changes, warfare, or even a loss of significance in the eyes of the people? Even more intriguing are the celestial alignments that have been discovered within the ruins of Perperikon. Several of the site's key structures, including the temple, appear to be carefully aligned with the sun's movements, particularly the solstices and equinoxes. This suggests that the people who built Perperikon had an advanced understanding of astronomy, using the natural world as a guide for their religious practices. The question remains, however, did the Thracians merely observe the heavens, or did they believe that the gods spoke to them through celestial events? Was this site a place where prophecies were made, where the future could be glimpsed in the stars? The presence of astronomical features at Perperikon echoes the practices of other ancient cultures, like the Mayans and Egyptians, who also aligned their sacred sites to the stars. Could Perperikon have been part of an ancient tradition of sky worship, where the movement of the celestial bodies was believed to influence the course of human affairs? There is also the unsettling mystery of the ritual sacrifices that took place at Perperikon. Excavations have uncovered signs of ritual burning, and some believe that the Thracians practiced human sacrifice at this sacred site, though definitive proof remains elusive. The practice of offering sacrifices to the gods was common in many ancient cultures, but the exact nature of the rituals performed at Perperikon is still unclear. Did the people of Perperikon believe that their deities required the blood of living beings in exchange for blessings? Or were these sacrifices symbolic, meant to mark the passage of time or to commemorate important celestial events? Perhaps the most perplexing question surrounding Perperikon is the identity of the people who once inhabited it. Though the Thracians were known for their warrior culture and their influence on the ancient world, they left behind few written records, making it difficult to fully understand their society, beliefs, and history. What we know of them comes mostly from the accounts of Greek and Roman writers, who were often more interested in the Thracians as a people to conquer than as a culture to understand. The mystery of Perperikon adds to the puzzle. Was this site simply a reflection of Thracian society, or did it hold a deeper, more universal significance? Some speculate that Perperikon was a center of power for an earlier, lost civilization, possibly predating the Thracians themselves. Could it have been the site of an ancient religious or political system that predates our understanding of history? As we stand at the edge of Perperikon, gazing at the remnants of this once vibrant place, it's impossible not to feel the weight of the unanswered questions that linger in the air. Was Perperikon a center of spiritual and political power, as its structures suggest? Or was it something more, a sacred place tied to the rhythms of the cosmos, a site where the Thracians could commune with the divine and seek guidance from the stars? The city's mysterious abandonment, Its possible connection to astronomical phenomena and its role in ancient religious practices all point to a deeper, more complex history than we currently understand. The story of Perperikon is far from over, its ruins still echoing with the whispers of ancient rituals and long-forgotten truths. What other secrets does this sacred site hold? And how much more might we yet uncover as we continue to search for answers to the mysteries of the ancient world? We now turn our attention to the rugged coastline of the Adriatic Sea, where the windswept hills of southern Croatia hold a secret, one that has remained buried for millennia. Here, in a place that seems almost forgotten by time, lies Monkodonja, an ancient settlement whose very existence raises profound questions about the lost civilizations of the Mediterranean. From a distance, Monkodonja may seem like little more than a scattered collection of stone walls and ruins. But as you draw closer, the site reveals itself to be a carefully constructed, fortified city, one that was once at the heart of a mysterious culture, now long faded into history. Monkodonja is believed to date back to at least the Bronze Age, around 1600 BC, and it flourished during the period of the early Iron Age. The site is perched on a hill overlooking the sea, its position providing both a strategic vantage point and a natural defense. The settlement itself is an imposing structure, built with great precision and planning. Its fortifications, made of massive stone walls and terraces, suggest a society that was not only skilled in construction, but one that had the foresight to protect itself from outside threats. Yet, despite its seemingly strong defenses, Monkodonja remains largely unexplored, a puzzle whose pieces are scattered across the landscape, waiting for the right questions to be asked. As you walk through the ruins of Monkodonja, the first thing you notice is the staggering complexity of its architecture. The city was designed with a series of concentric walls that encircle the settlement like a protective shell. These walls, made from large, uncut stones, curve around the hill in a way that suggests a deep understanding of both military strategy and engineering. Inside the fortified city, narrow streets wind between houses, with each building constructed from similar rough-hewn stones. The buildings themselves are modest, with few decorative elements, yet the layout is deliberate, carefully planned to optimize space, visibility, and defense. But what stands out the most is the central area, a large open space that may have been used for public gatherings, ceremonies, or markets. Monkodonja's inhabitants were part of a larger, ill-defined culture that thrived in this region long before the Greeks, Romans, and other Mediterranean powers rose to prominence. Known as the Illyrians, this ancient people left behind few written records, which makes it difficult to understand their society, beliefs, and origins. What we know of them comes primarily from archaeological finds, as well as mentions in the records of other ancient civilizations. The Illyrians were a diverse group, spread across much of the Western Balkans, but their unity and common cultural traits remain elusive. What was it that connected the various Illyrian tribes? And what role did Monkodonja play within this vast network of peoples? The mystery of Monkodonja deepens when we consider its abandonment. Sometime around the 5th century BC, the settlement was suddenly deserted. But why? The reason for its decline is not immediately clear. No signs of a catastrophic event, such as fire or destruction from an enemy invasion, have been found. Some archaeologists speculate that the inhabitants of Monkodonja may have left due to changing political dynamics, perhaps the rise of other powers in the region, or a shift in trade routes that made the hilltop settlement less strategic. Others suggest that the decline of Monkodonja may have been linked to environmental changes, such as a shift in climate that made agriculture or trade more difficult. Whatever the cause, the abandonment of Monkodonja remains a haunting mystery, a city that once thrived, now reduced to stone remnants and silent streets. Perhaps the most perplexing aspect of Monkodonja is its apparent isolation from the broader Mediterranean world. While other contemporary cultures, such as the Greeks and Phoenicians, were establishing trade networks and founding colonies across the seas, the people of Monkodonja seem to have remained largely detached from these wider developments. This has led some scholars to question the extent to which the Illyrians, and by extension Monkodonja, were influenced by or even connected to the major civilizations of the time. Were the Illyrians simply a secluded, self-contained society, or was there more to their story? Evidence of trade goods, including pottery and jewelry, suggests that the people of Monkodonja had some contact with other cultures, perhaps with the Greeks or even the Phoenicians. But the nature of these interactions is still a subject of debate. Did the people of Monkodonja engage in long-distance trade, or were they content to live in relative isolation? Intriguingly, the layout of the settlement itself raises more questions than it answers. As is often the case with ancient ruins, the way in which Monkodonja was constructed suggests that its builders may have had some deeper, symbolic understanding of their surroundings. Some researchers have speculated that the city's design could have been aligned with the movement of the sun or the stars, much like other ancient sites that were built with celestial alignments in mind. Could the people of Monkodonja have had an advanced understanding of astronomy? Or were they simply placing their city in a position that held spiritual or symbolic significance for them, much like the builders of Stonehenge or the great temples of the ancient Egyptians? Adding to the mystery are the burial practices at Monkodonja. The site contains several burial areas, some of which are remarkably well preserved, offering a glimpse into the funerary rituals of the people who lived there. But what is particularly fascinating is the discovery of ceremonial objects associated with the graves, items that might indicate the people of Monkodonja believed in an afterlife, or in some form of spiritual continuation beyond death. These items include pottery, jewelry, and even tools, suggesting that the deceased were buried with their possessions, perhaps to accompany them in the afterlife. But why these particular objects? Was there a specific ritual that accompanied these burials, or did they hold deeper symbolic meanings that we are yet to fully understand? Despite the richness of the site, much of Monkodonja remains buried beneath the earth. Only a fraction of the settlement has been excavated, and many of the mysteries surrounding it remain unresolved. There are still large areas of the site that have yet to be explored, leaving us with the nagging question of what else might lie hidden beneath the soil. What untold secrets do the ruins still hold? What stories are still waiting to be uncovered? One particularly intriguing possibility is the existence of hidden chambers or underground passages that might have been used for secret rituals, storage, or even as means of escape in times of danger. The idea that Monkodonja could have been built with hidden spaces, perhaps for spiritual purposes, is not far-fetched. After all, many ancient cultures, whether in the Near East, Egypt, or Europe, created secretive, sacred spaces within their cities, and the possibility that Monkodonja had similar chambers is worth exploring. Monkodonja's mystery persists, its secrets lying just beyond reach. Was it a city simply built for defense and trade, or was it a place of deeper significance, perhaps a center of spiritual power or cultural exchange? What caused its sudden decline, and what might the unexplored parts of the city still reveal about the ancient Illyrians? The answers to these questions may still be buried beneath the stone walls, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. As we continue to explore the world's ancient mysteries, Monkodonja stands as a reminder of how much we still have yet to discover about the past. What lies beneath the surface, waiting to be found? And what truths, hidden for centuries, might reshape our understanding of ancient civilizations? The stone walls of Monkodonja may hold the key. As we continue our journey across the ancient world, we now find ourselves on the island of Crete, a place where legend and history collide in ways that continue to baffle modern scholars. Among the most captivating ruins on this island is the Palace of Phaistos, an extraordinary sight that offers a glimpse into a civilization at the peak of its power, yet leaves us with more questions than answers. Perched high on a hill overlooking the fertile plain of Mesara, the palace is a testament to the sophistication of the Minoan civilization, whose influence once stretched across the Mediterranean. Yet, despite its grandeur, Phaistos is shrouded in an air of mystery, both in its purpose and its sudden disappearance. The first thing that strikes you about the Palace of Phaistos is its sheer size and complexity. The sprawling ruins cover several acres, with numerous rooms, courtyards, and staircases leading in every direction. Built around 1700 BC, the palace was a center of power, culture, and religion. It was the residence of Minoan royalty and an administrative hub, with evidence suggesting it was also a place of ceremonial importance. The walls are made of large, well-cut stones, a hallmark of Minoan architecture, and the layout is highly organized, with a central courtyard surrounded by a labyrinthine network of rooms and hallways. The architectural style is distinctly Minoan, with grand columns and vibrant frescoes depicting scenes of nature, religious rituals, and everyday life. As you walk through the ruins, it's easy to imagine the bustling activity that once filled these halls. The central courtyard, with its sun-drenched floors, would have been a gathering place for important ceremonies, while the surrounding rooms likely held treasures, records, and perhaps the tools of administration. The palace is constructed in a way that suggests a deep understanding of engineering and urban planning. Wide, open spaces for public events, alongside smaller, more private chambers for the king and his family. The ingenuity of the Minoans is on full display here, but it is the mysteries surrounding the palace's purpose and eventual demise that remain most compelling. What makes Phaistos so intriguing is the lack of clear records left by the Minoans. Unlike other ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptians or the Mesopotamians, the Minoans did not leave behind extensive written records. While there are inscriptions found at various sites across Crete, including the famous Linear A script, the language remains largely undeciphered, preventing us from fully understanding their political, social, and religious structures. What were the exact roles of the palace's inhabitants, and how did they govern this sophisticated society? Were they rulers, priests, or something else entirely? The absence of written records leaves us to piece together the history of Phaistos from what remains of its architecture and material culture, but the picture is still incomplete. One of the most famous artifacts found at Phaistos is the Phaistos disk, a mysterious object that has puzzled archaeologists since it was discovered in 1908. The disk is made of fired clay, about 15 centimeters in diameter, and is covered with a series of symbols, which have been stamped into the surface. Despite numerous attempts to decipher the script, the symbols remain an enigma, leading some to speculate that the Phaistos disk could be a form of writing, an early record-keeping device, or perhaps even a religious talisman. Its purpose remains unclear, but its discovery at the palace suggests that Phaistos was a place of both political and spiritual significance. The Phaistos disk is not the only strange object to have been found at the site. Archaeologists have uncovered a variety of other artifacts, including pottery, figurines, and tools, all of which offer insights into the daily life of the Minoans. However, many of these items are equally puzzling. For example, some of the pottery found at Phaistos features intricate designs that appear to depict not only the island's natural fauna, but also scenes of religious or ritualistic practices. Could these images have had a deeper symbolic meaning? What did they represent to the people of Phaistos, and how were they used in ceremonies? The lack of written records leaves us to speculate on the significance of these objects and their role in the Minoan worldview. The decline of the Palace of Phaistos is another chapter of its history that is steeped in mystery. Like many other Minoan sites, the palace was abandoned around 1450 BC during a period of widespread upheaval across Crete. There are several theories as to why this occurred. One possibility is that it was destroyed by natural disasters, such as the massive eruption of the Santorini volcano, modern-day Thera, which is thought to have triggered a series of events that led to the collapse of the Minoan civilization. The eruption would have caused devastating tsunamis, earthquakes, and ash fallout, severely disrupting trade and agriculture across the eastern Mediterranean. It is believed that the eruption weakened the Minoans, leaving them vulnerable to invasion or internal strife. Another theory posits that the Minoans were overtaken by the Mycenaeans, a Greek civilization that began to expand its influence around the same time. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Mycenaeans may have had military and economic control over Crete by the late 15th century BC, and it's possible that they either destroyed or abandoned Minoan palaces as they consolidated power. But if this is true, what does it mean for the fate of the Minoans? Were they displaced, assimilated, or wiped out entirely? And why is it that despite the rise of the Mycenaeans, the Minoan culture, with all its achievements, seemed to vanish so abruptly? There are also more speculative theories that suggest an even deeper mystery surrounding the fall of Phaistos. Some believe that the palace was abandoned not due to a natural disaster or foreign invasion, but because of a spiritual or religious crisis, a profound shift in belief systems that caused the inhabitants to leave their sacred and political center behind. Could the collapse of the Minoan civilization be linked to a loss of faith in the very gods they once worshipped? Was the palace abandoned in search of a new religious vision, or was it a retreat from something darker, an internal conflict or a growing sense of unease among the people? As we stand on the ruins of the palace of Phaistos today, gazing out over the same landscape that once witnessed the daily activities of a thriving civilization, we are left with more questions than answers. The mysteries of the Minoan world remain largely unsolved, from the cryptic symbols on the Phaistos disk to the true reason for the palace's abandonment. Were the Minoans a peaceful, spiritually driven people, or did they possess a complex, hidden history of power struggles and conflict? What was the true role of the palace in the political and religious life of the island? We can only speculate on what might still lie hidden beneath the earth, what secrets the ruins of Phaistos still hold, waiting for the day when the right question will be asked, or the right discovery will be made. As we ponder the rise and fall of this remarkable civilization, we are reminded of the fragility of human history. The ancient Minoans built with extraordinary skill, but their achievements remain wrapped in a shroud of mystery. Perhaps, like the symbols on the Phaistos disk, the answers lie just out of reach, waiting to be unlocked by the curiosity of future generations. From the vast, windswept desert of Egypt, near the shores of Lake Nasser, rises a remarkable monument to an ancient civilization whose mysteries have endured for millennia. Abu Simbel, an awe-inspiring site built by one of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs, Ramses II, stands as a testament to both human ingenuity and the enigmatic forces that have shaped history. These colossal rock temples, carved directly into the mountainside, command attention, their towering statues of Ramses and gods gazing solemnly across the desert. At first glance, Abu Simbel seems almost too grand, too perfect for the rugged terrain it inhabits. The two temples, each carved from a single piece of sandstone, were constructed during the 13th century BC to immortalize the reign of Ramses II and to honor the gods he worshipped. The Great Temple, dedicated to Ramses himself, features 4 enormous seated statues of the pharaoh, each towering over 20 meters in height, while the smaller Temple of Hathor, dedicated to his queen, Nefertari, boasts smaller but no less impressive figures. The sheer scale and craftsmanship of the site are awe-inspiring, and yet, like many other monuments of the ancient world, the mystery of Abu Simbel goes far beyond its majestic appearance. What makes Abu Simbel particularly captivating is its relocation. In the 1960s, as the construction of the Aswan High Dam began to flood the Nile Valley, the ancient temples of Abu Simbel were in imminent danger of being lost to the rising waters. In an extraordinary act of preservation, the entire complex was cut into blocks and painstakingly moved 200 feet above its original site. The relocation took 4 years, involved over 50 countries, and required an immense amount of resources and planning. It is a feat of modern engineering that matches the marvel of the original construction, yet the very act of saving Abu Simbel raises an important question. Why was such a monumental effort required to preserve this site? What was it about Abu Simbel that made it so important, both to its creators and to later generations? The answer to that question likely lies in the spiritual and political significance of the temples. Ramses II, known as Ramses the Great, was not only a skilled military leader, but also a master propagandist. His reign, which lasted for 66 years, was marked by grandiose building projects designed to solidify his legacy and reinforce his divine right to rule. The statues of Ramses at Abu Simbel are not mere depictions of a king, but symbolic representations of his immortality and his connection to the gods. These statues were designed to project an image of omnipotence, gigantic, unyielding, and eternal. But what does this say about the pharaoh's belief in his own power and his place in the cosmos? Did Ramses believe that his statues would not only outlast his physical form, but continue to serve as intermediaries between gods and men, ensuring his power for eternity? The most fascinating aspect of the Great Temple, however, lies in its remarkable alignment with the sun. Twice a year, on February 22nd and October 22nd, the first rays of the rising sun penetrate the temple's entrance and illuminate the statues of Ramses II and the gods seated behind him. This alignment was no accident. It is believed that Ramses deliberately designed the temple to honor his divine nature and to assert his control over both the earthly and celestial realms. The sun's rays symbolically rejuvenated the pharaoh, reaffirming his connection to the sun god Ra. But how did the ancient Egyptians possess such a sophisticated understanding of astronomy? The precision with which they designed Abu Simbel raises questions about the depth of their knowledge of celestial bodies. Was this a coincidence, or was there a deeper, more mysterious significance to the temple's design? The fact that this alignment still occurs today, despite the complex relocation of the temple, further deepens the mystery. The precision of the alignment survived the monumental move in the 1960s, as the temple was carefully reconstructed to maintain its original orientation. This raises the question, what were the Egyptians' motivations behind such a precise alignment? Was it merely an architectural marvel, or did it reflect a belief in the power of the sun's rays to awaken the divine power of the ruler? Could the temple have been designed as a form of ritual in which the pharaoh's connection to the gods was physically and symbolically renewed by the sun? And if this alignment was so important, was there something even more profound about the timing? Why February and October? These dates, coinciding with the pharaoh's birthday and his coronation, offer one possible clue. But does the alignment have a more cryptic meaning? Something tied to the cosmic order or a religious calendar that is lost to us today? Beyond its alignment and the architectural feats involved, there is another aspect of Abu Simbel that invites further investigation: the role of the smaller Temple of Hathor. This temple, dedicated to Ramses's beloved queen, Nefertari, is unique in that the queen's statues are depicted almost equal in size to those of Ramses himself. This was a significant departure from the traditional Egyptian norm, where queens were often shown as much smaller figures in the shadow of their royal husbands. The equal stature of Nefertari suggests that she was not only the wife of the king, but may have played a crucial role in the religious and political life of the kingdom. Could she have been viewed as a divine figure in her own right? The temple dedicated to Hathor, goddess of love, music, and fertility, hints at a deeper connection between the queen and divine forces. But why was Nefertari's temple built with such prominence, and what does this tell us about her influence during Ramses' reign? Adding to the intrigue is the mysterious artistic representation found within the walls of both temples. The frescoes and reliefs depict not only the triumphs of Ramses II in battle, but also scenes of religious ceremonies and interactions with the gods. Some reliefs show Ramses himself communing with the gods, while others depict the king in battle with his enemies, reinforcing his image as a powerful, divinely protected ruler. But in these depictions, is there more than just artistic symbolism? Could the scenes in the temple serve as ritualistic narratives, symbols of a larger spiritual or cosmic order in which Ramses' reign was inextricably linked to the fate of Egypt itself? Were these images intended to convey something beyond earthly power, perhaps a deeper truth about the nature of existence, order, and divinity? As we look at Abu Simbel, both in its original and relocated forms, we are confronted with the question of why such a monument was built and what it represents. Was it merely the will of one man, Ramses II, to immortalize his name and power, or was there a deeper, more universal significance at play? The alignment with the sun, the equality of Nefertari's statues, and the spiritual weight of the monument all suggest that Abu Simbel was more than just a royal tomb or a victory monument. It was a place where the divine met the human, a gateway between the mortal and the eternal. But as with so many ancient mysteries, the true purpose of Abu Simbel remains elusive. What did the builders of Abu Simbel know that we do not? What secrets are hidden in the stone of this grand temple, left untouched by the sands of time? And what can the precision of its design and the grandeur of its symbolism tell us about the relationship between the ancient Egyptians and the cosmos? The questions linger, unanswered, as the silent statues of Ramses continue to gaze across the desert, awaiting a time when their secrets might finally be revealed. As we journey deeper into the heart of southern Africa, we come upon a sprawling, enigmatic site that has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and explorers for centuries: the ruins of Great Zimbabwe. Nestled within the dry hills of the Masvingo province in modern-day Zimbabwe, this ancient city is a silent witness to a civilization that once flourished here, leaving behind an impressive and mysterious legacy. The first sight that strikes you when you approach Great Zimbabwe is the sheer scale of the great enclosure, an immense circular wall of stone that stands as a testament to the architectural brilliance of its creators. Made of granite blocks that are carefully fitted together, the wall is around 11 meters high in some places and encloses an area of nearly 200 meters in diameter. The wall, without mortar or any visible means of support, is one of the most striking features of the site. How did the builders of Great Zimbabwe, with limited tools and resources, manage to construct such a feat of engineering? What techniques did they use to achieve this precision? As you step through the narrow entrance of the great enclosure, you're met with a quiet sense of awe. Inside, the walls curve around a central space where large circular stone platforms and the remnants of dwellings still stand. The air is heavy with the weight of centuries, and the stones themselves seem to hold secrets that have yet to be fully understood. The stone walls of the enclosure appear almost as if they were constructed with a purpose far beyond mere defense. Were they simply a fortification, or did they have a more profound symbolic or spiritual significance? Could the walls of Great Zimbabwe represent the boundaries between the sacred and the mundane, between the rulers and their people? Moving from the great enclosure to the hill complex, the site becomes even more intriguing. Here, atop a hill that provides sweeping views of the surrounding landscape, stands a cluster of carefully arranged stone buildings. The hill complex is believed to have served as the royal palace, and it is here that the mysterious conical tower rises. At just over 9 meters in height, the tower is a finely crafted structure with walls that taper as they ascend, giving it a distinctly conical shape. The purpose of the tower remains unclear. Was it simply a symbol of the king's authority, a ceremonial structure, or something more? Some have speculated that the tower was used as an astronomical observatory, while others believe it had religious significance, possibly connected to the worship of the sun or the ancestors. Yet, for all the awe-inspiring architecture, there is little known about the people who built these remarkable structures. The Zimbabwean culture that constructed Great Zimbabwe is often associated with the Shona people, whose descendants continue to inhabit the region today. However, the origins of this ancient civilization, often referred to as the Great Zimbabwe culture, remain elusive. How did this culture rise to such prominence in the region? How did they possess the knowledge and resources to build these incredible stone structures, given the lack of written records from the time? What was the relationship between the people of Great Zimbabwe and other ancient civilizations of Africa, such as the Kingdom of Axum in the northeast, or the civilizations of the Nile Valley? The purpose of Great Zimbabwe itself has been a subject of considerable debate. Mainstream scholars agree that it served as the capital of a powerful kingdom, thriving from the 11th to the 15th century. The Kingdom of Zimbabwe, as it is believed to have been called, was engaged in trade with the coast of East Africa, and evidence of gold and ivory trade routes suggest that Great Zimbabwe was a wealthy and influential center. The kingdom is thought to have controlled much of the interior of southeastern Africa, including regions rich in mineral resources, and its prosperity is reflected in the grandeur of the site. But even with this understanding, questions still linger. Why, for example, does the Great Zimbabwe culture seem to have developed with such sophistication, only to gradually decline and disappear in the 15th century? The reasons for the collapse of the civilization are not entirely clear, but theories abound. Some believe that the decline may have been caused by environmental factors, such as prolonged drought or soil depletion, which would have undermined the agricultural base of the kingdom. Others suggest that political instability, internal strife, or external invasions may have contributed to the fall of Great Zimbabwe. However, there is no single explanation that fully accounts for the rapid decline of such a powerful and prosperous civilization. One of the most curious aspects of Great Zimbabwe is the absence of written records. Like many ancient cultures, the people of Zimbabwe did not have a system of writing, and most of what we know about their history has been passed down through oral traditions and material evidence. However, there are a number of inscriptions, known as the Great Zimbabwe scripts, which have been found on artifacts, including pieces of pottery and stone tablets. These inscriptions remain untranslated, and their meaning is a subject of ongoing debate. Some scholars have suggested that the symbols could represent a form of writing, while others believe that they are purely symbolic or ceremonial in nature. If the inscriptions are indeed a form of writing, could they hold the key to understanding the political, religious, and cultural beliefs of the people who built Great Zimbabwe? And if so, why has this written language remained so elusive? The trade networks that Great Zimbabwe was a part of also present an intriguing mystery. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of gold artifacts, beads, and ceramics that indicate a wide-ranging trade network stretching across Africa and into the Indian Ocean. Some of these objects suggest contact with distant civilizations, such as those of the Arab world and even China. In particular, the discovery of Chinese porcelain in the ruins of Great Zimbabwe has sparked speculation about the extent of the kingdom's trade connections. Could Great Zimbabwe have been part of an even broader network of ancient civilizations that spanned the African continent and beyond? Was it a key player in a global exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies? And then there is the question of the architecture itself. The precision with which the walls of Great Zimbabwe were constructed, without mortar and using only local stone, raises a number of questions. How did the builders achieve such exacting craftsmanship? Was this knowledge passed down through generations, or was it the result of a sophisticated system of construction techniques that has since been lost to time? Moreover, how were these massive structures maintained over centuries, particularly given the absence of a written record? As we walk among the ruins of Great Zimbabwe, it is impossible not to feel a sense of mystery. This once great civilization, powerful, wealthy, and highly advanced, has left behind more questions than answers. Its ruins continue to evoke a sense of awe and wonder, but also a deep longing for understanding. What drove the people of Great Zimbabwe to build such monumental structures? What was their relationship to the land, the gods, and the cosmos? And why did their civilization, after reaching such great heights, vanish into the annals of history? Great Zimbabwe stands as a powerful reminder that even in the modern age, many of the world's ancient mysteries remain unsolved. As the winds sweep across the stone walls of the great enclosure, the echoes of the past continue to reverberate. What truths still lie buried beneath the sands, waiting to be uncovered? Only time will tell. Nestled on the rugged slopes of the Argolid Peninsula in southern Greece, the ancient ruins of Tiryns stand as a silent testament to a lost civilization that once thrived long before the rise of Athens, Sparta, or the mighty Macedonian Empire. Today, Tiryns is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, known primarily for its massive labyrinthine walls and the profound mystery that surrounds its origins and purpose. When you first approach the ruins, the sight of the imposing Cyclopean walls, so large and heavy that ancient historians believed only giants could have constructed them, invites an immediate sense of awe and curiosity. What was the true nature of this long-forgotten city, and how did it come to occupy such a strategic and prominent place in the ancient world? The city walls of Tiryns are the first and most obvious enigma. These walls, made of enormous limestone blocks, are some of the most impressive examples of Cyclopean architecture to have survived from the Bronze Age. The term Cyclopean comes from the belief that only the mythical giants, the Cyclopes, could have lifted such massive stones. The sheer scale and weight of these blocks, some weighing several tons, raise an immediate question. How did the builders of Tiryns, living thousands of years ago, manage to move and fit these giant stones together with such precision? Despite the rudimentary tools available to them, the people of Tiryns were able to create walls that have stood the test of time, their strength and durability unmatched even by modern construction techniques. Was this simply a feat of skill, or was there something more profound at work? Some lost knowledge or technology that allowed them to achieve such a monumental construction? Walking through the ruins, it's impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing down on you. The walls, which once enclosed an entire city, stretch over 700 meters in some places, encircling the main citadel and its surrounding structures. Inside the walls, the palace complex rises above the rest of the city, a place that was likely the heart of Tiryns' political and cultural life. The palace is a sprawling structure, with numerous rooms, courtyards, and passageways, some of which suggest an advanced understanding of architectural design. But despite the grandeur of the structure, the Palace of Tiryns has not yielded any definitive answers about the exact nature of the city's rulers or the life of its inhabitants. The layout suggests a highly organized society, yet the lack of written records leaves us with little more than conjecture. It is widely believed that Tiryns was an important Mycenaean center, a city that flourished from around 1400 BC to 1200 BC. During this period, the Mycenaeans dominated much of the eastern Mediterranean, establishing a vast network of trade and military power. Tiryns was strategically located on a hilltop, providing natural defense and a commanding view of the surrounding plains and coastline. The city's importance is further emphasized by its connection to the famous city of Mycenae, just a short distance away. Both cities were part of the same Mycenaean world, with cultural, religious, and political ties linking them. But what made Tiryns so significant in this context? Was it merely a satellite city of Mycenae, or did it possess its own distinct identity and power? One of the most striking features of Tiryns is its well-preserved frescoes, which offer rare insight into the daily life and religious practices of the city's inhabitants. The frescoes, found in various parts of the palace, depict scenes of rituals, feasts, and processions, suggesting that the Mycenaeans placed a great deal of importance on both their social gatherings and their religious ceremonies. In particular, the frescoes of bull leaping, a ceremonial practice in which participants grasped the horns of a bull and leaped over its back, are among the most famous depictions found at Tiryns. The bull, with its symbolic association with fertility and strength, seems to have held a central role in Mycenaean religious life. But what do these depictions really tell us about the culture of Tiryns? Were these rituals meant to honor specific gods, or were they symbolic of deeper cosmic forces at play in Mycenaean thought? The frescoes also suggest that the people of Tiryns were well versed in the art of trade and contact with other Mediterranean cultures. Evidence of imports from Egypt, the Aegean Islands, and the Near East has been uncovered at the site, indicating that Tiryns was not an isolated city, but one with extensive connections to the wider world. The Mycenaeans, with their network of trade routes, were among the most influential peoples of the ancient Mediterranean. But who were the people of Tiryns trading with, and what role did the city play in the greater political and economic landscape of the time? Did Tiryns serve as a major hub in the Mycenaean trade empire, or was it more of a military stronghold built to defend and expand Mycenae's influence? The decline of Tiryns is another source of mystery. The city appears to have been abandoned or destroyed around 1200 BC, during a period of widespread upheaval and collapse across the Bronze Age Mediterranean. This period, often referred to as the Bronze Age collapse, saw the downfall of several great civilizations, including the Mycenaeans, the Hittites, and the Egyptians. Some scholars argue that the destruction of Tiryns may have been the result of an external invasion, possibly from the Dorian tribes, who are believed to have swept through the Aegean region during this time. Others suggest that the city's fall was caused by internal strife or a shift in trade patterns that undermined its economic foundation. Whatever the cause, Tiryns' sudden decline raises important questions. Was it merely a casualty of the widespread turmoil that affected the Mediterranean? Or did it face a unique set of challenges that led to its fall? Was the collapse of Tiryns a sign of the disintegration of Mycenaean civilization itself? Intriguingly, some have proposed that Tiryns was not simply a victim of external invasions or economic collapse, but may have been deliberately abandoned for reasons that we can only guess at. Could the Mycenaeans have abandoned the city due to changing religious or political beliefs? Did Tiryns, in its final years, become a place of isolation or decline that no longer served the needs of its rulers and citizens? And why, after its collapse, did the city's ruins remain largely undisturbed for so long? Was there a specific event or series of events that led to Tiryns being forgotten by history until it was rediscovered by modern archaeologists? The legacy of Tiryns also begs the question of its influence on the myths and legends that were passed down through generations. One of the most famous stories from Greek mythology is that of Heracles, who, according to legend, was born in Tiryns and completed some of his 12 labors in the surrounding area. Could the myth of Heracles have been inspired by real events and figures associated with the city? Was there something about Tiryns' history that gave rise to such larger-than-life tales? Was the city itself somehow imbued with a sense of mythological power, its monumental walls and sacred rituals becoming the foundation for the heroic legends that would later define Greek culture? As we walk among the stones of Tiryns, the questions linger, hanging in the air like the ancient myths themselves. What was the true role of this mighty city, and how did it fit into the larger puzzle of the ancient world? Was it simply a military fortress, a trading post, or a center of spiritual significance? What knowledge or power did the people of Tiryns possess, and how did their city rise and fall with such mystery? These questions, like the city's cyclopean walls, stand strong, waiting to be explored. The story of Tiryns is far from over. Hidden in the vast, arid expanse of northwestern New Mexico, in the heart of the American Southwest, lies a remarkable and haunting place, Chaco Canyon. Stretching across the desolate landscape like an ancient city of stone, this once thriving center of culture, astronomy, and ritual remains one of the most mysterious archaeological sites in the United States. The canyon itself, framed by towering rock formations and isolated mesas, feels like a portal to another time, a place where the echoes of a forgotten civilization still resonate through the wind-swept ruins. The heart of Chaco Canyon is its great houses, massive stone structures that stand as silent witnesses to the sophisticated society that once inhabited the region. At their peak, these great houses, such as Pueblo Bonito, Chetroquetl, and Quincletso, were 4 to 5 stories tall and spread across the valley floor. Their walls, built from thousands of meticulously shaped and stacked stones, are testament to the remarkable engineering and organizational skills of the Chacoans, as the people of the canyon are known. But these structures, now crumbling under the weight of centuries, were not simply dwellings. They were something more. The layout and design of these great houses suggest a complex society, with careful attention to alignment and placement that raises questions about their purpose. Why were they built so grandly, and what role did they play in the daily lives of the people who inhabited them? Chaco Canyon's architecture alone is fascinating, but it is the site's astronomical connections that elevate its mystery to a whole new level. The Chacoans were not only skilled builders, they were also deeply attuned to the cycles of the sky. In fact, the layout of many of the great houses appears to align with the sun, moon, and stars, suggesting that astronomy was integral to their lives. Some of the great houses, including Pueblo Bonito, are oriented with such precision that they appear to have been constructed specifically to track celestial events, including the summer and winter solstices, and the lunar standstill, a phenomenon that occurs every 18.6 years, when the moon's rise and set points on the horizon are at their extreme limits. The question that arises, however, is how the Chacoans, living in the desert with limited tools and technology, were able to achieve such precise astronomical alignments. Did they possess knowledge of the stars and the movement of celestial bodies that we have yet to fully understand? Some archaeologists speculate that the Chacoans used these alignments for practical purposes, such as to regulate agricultural activities or to mark the changing seasons. But could there have been a deeper, spiritual, or even ritualistic significance to these astronomical observations? Was the alignment of the structures a way to communicate with the gods or to connect with cosmic forces, as was common in many ancient cultures? Adding to the intrigue of Chaco Canyon are the great kivas, large, circular, subterranean chambers found at many of the great house sites. These kivas, which served as places of ceremony and ritual, are often considered to be the spiritual heart of Chacoan society. Their placement within the architecture of the great houses suggests that they were central to the social and religious lives of the people. Yet the exact nature of the rituals performed in these kivas remains shrouded in mystery. What were these ceremonies, and how did they relate to the Chacoans' understanding of the universe and their place within it? Could the kivas have been used for astrological rites, as some researchers have suggested, linking the heavens to the earth in ways that we are only beginning to comprehend? The scale of Chaco Canyon's influence is perhaps one of its most striking features. At its height, the canyon was a hub of commerce, religion, and politics, drawing people from across the American Southwest. Trade routes extending over hundreds of miles connected Chaco to other ancient cultures, including those in what is now Mexico and the Great Basin. The Chacoans traded goods such as turquoise, pottery, and macaw feathers, and their influence spread far beyond the confines of the canyon itself. But what drove this vast network of exchange? Was Chaco Canyon a capital of sorts, where powerful leaders gathered to make decisions that affected the entire region? Or was it more of a spiritual center, where people from distant lands came to seek knowledge, perform rituals, or partake in the cosmic mysteries of the stars? There is also the question of the Chacoan road system. Across the desert, long, straight roads extend outward from Chaco Canyon, leading to distant pueblos and ceremonial sites. These roads, built with remarkable precision and consistency, suggest a highly organized and coordinated society. The roads were not just simple pathways. They were often aligned with the cardinal directions and may have been constructed for both practical and symbolic purposes. Were they used primarily for trade, or did they serve as routes for ceremonial processions or pilgrimages? The roads also raise another mystery. Why did the Chacoans build such an elaborate network of roads if their population was relatively small? And why did they abandon them once the canyon began to decline? By the mid-12th century, Chaco Canyon was largely abandoned, its once grand great houses and ceremonial centers left to the elements. The reasons for the abandonment of Chaco remain speculative, but the most commonly accepted explanation involves a combination of environmental factors, including prolonged drought and the depletion of resources, particularly water. As the climate in the region shifted and became more arid, the Chacoans may have been forced to leave their once thriving metropolis in search of more sustainable locations. But could there have been other, more enigmatic factors at play? Could the decline of Chaco have been linked to internal social unrest, religious upheaval, or even foreign invasions? Some even speculate that the decline could have been tied to a cosmic event, a change in the heavens that disrupted the balance the Chacoans had long relied upon. Today, Chaco Canyon remains a mystery, its once bustling center reduced to ruins, and its inhabitants' true fate unknown. Despite decades of archaeological research, many aspects of Chacoan society continue to elude us. The exact nature of their religious beliefs, the full extent of their astronomical knowledge, and the reasons for their eventual abandonment of the canyon are questions that remain unanswered. But perhaps it is in the unanswered questions that the true mystery of Chaco Canyon lies. As we stand among the ruins of Pueblo Bonito, looking out over the canyon's dry landscape, we are reminded that even in our age of technological advancement, some mysteries of the past refuse to be solved. The Chacoans built a city that aligned with the stars, traded across vast distances, and constructed grand structures that still stand today. Yet, despite all that we know, the heart of Chaco Canyon remains locked in the past, a place where the mysteries of ancient knowledge and spiritual connection continue to quietly whisper across the ages. What, if anything, did the people of Chaco Canyon understand about the cosmos that we have yet to learn? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the arid soil, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? The story of Chaco Canyon is far from finished. It is a tale still unfolding, one stone at a time. Nestled high on the rugged cliffs of the Kartli region in Georgia, overlooking the mighty Makvari River, stands the ancient and enigmatic Fortress of Uplistsikhe, a place where history, mystery, and the natural world converge. This fascinating site, whose name roughly translates to Lord's Fortress, is a sprawling complex of rock-hewn structures that seems almost to rise organically from the land itself, as if carved directly by the hands of the gods. The fortress, which dates back as far as the 6th century BC, is not merely a fortification. It is a glimpse into the heart of a civilization that flourished long before the dawn of recorded history. But despite its significance and its grandeur, Uplistsikhe holds many unanswered questions, leaving us to wonder about the ancient people who once called this place home and the mysteries they left behind. As you approach Uplistsikhe, the first thing that strikes you is the dramatic setting, its towering stone structures perched precariously above the river valley. The cliffs, rising almost 300 feet from the river below, provide a natural defense, while the vast network of rock-cut dwellings and temples seems to stretch out across the hillside like an ancient labyrinth. From a distance, the fortress almost appears to be a fossilized city, its sun-bleached stone facades and carved openings giving the illusion that the place has always been a part of the landscape itself. And in a way, it has. For thousands of years, Uplistsikhe has stood as a sentinel, guarding the passageways that have connected different parts of Georgia and the wider Caucasus region. Yet, it is not just the fortress's strategic location or impressive architecture that makes it so intriguing. It is the profound sense of mystery that permeates every corner of the site. The heart of Uplistsikhe lies in its unique architecture, a series of cave dwellings, temples, and public spaces that have been painstakingly carved into the living rock. The ingenuity required to create such a site, using only rudimentary tools, speaks to a society with both extraordinary skill and a deep understanding of the land. Some of these rock-hewn chambers were once private homes, while others were likely used for religious ceremonies or as administrative spaces. But perhaps the most striking feature of Uplistsikhe is the Great Hall, a massive, open-air structure carved into the cliffs, with a large, central courtyard surrounded by stone benches. Some scholars have suggested that this hall may have served as a gathering place for local rulers or even as a court of justice, but the exact function remains unclear. What, exactly, was the purpose of such a grand space? Could it have been used for political or ceremonial purposes, or was it something more symbolic, reflecting a deeper connection between the people of Uplistsikhe and the gods they worshipped? Uplistsikhe's most notable feature, however, may be the temple complex, a series of sanctuaries dedicated to various deities, many of which were likely pagan gods. The rock-cut altars, niches, and sanctuaries show evidence of ritual practices that span centuries, yet the specific beliefs of the people who inhabited Uplistsikhe remain largely unknown. The Temple of the Sun, with its grand stone steps and panoramic views over the river valley, hints at a society that placed great importance on the cosmic order and celestial forces. Was the worship of the sun, or possibly other natural elements, central to the religious life of Uplistsikhe's inhabitants? And what role did the natural landscape play in shaping their spiritual beliefs? Could it be that the ancient people of Uplistsikhe saw their settlement as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a place where the human world could connect with the cosmos through ritual and sacred space? Though Uplistsikhe flourished for many centuries, it eventually fell into decline around the 13th century. The reasons for its downfall are not entirely clear, but theories abound. Some suggest that it was abandoned due to invasions from neighboring tribes. Others propose that internal strife or shifting political power led to its collapse. The Mongol invasions, which swept through the region in the 13th century, could have been a contributing factor, as the site was once a significant political and cultural center. Could it be that Uplistsikhe, once a thriving metropolis, was slowly consumed by forces both internal and external? Did the site's inhabitants abandon their rock-hewn fortress in search of greener pastures, or was it lost to time and conflict? Despite the mystery surrounding its decline, Uplistsikhe remained largely forgotten for centuries, hidden in the harsh landscape until its rediscovery in the 19th century. The site was eventually excavated, revealing a wealth of artifacts, including pottery, tools, and even inscriptions in ancient Greek and Aramaic. These inscriptions have raised more questions than they have answered. The presence of Greek inscriptions suggests that the site may have had some connection with the wider world of ancient Greece, and possibly even the Hellenistic and Roman empires. What was the nature of this connection? Was Uplistsikhe a crossroads of sorts, where different cultures and peoples met, traded, and shared ideas? The archaeological evidence certainly points to a place of great influence, with access to trade routes and a variety of cultural and religious influences. Yet the exact nature of this intersection remains elusive. Was Uplistsikhe simply a regional capital, or was it something more? A spiritual center, a political hub, or even a place of ancient power whose true significance has been obscured by time? Adding to the intrigue is the possibility that Uplistsikhe was not only a physical, but also a spiritual crossroads. Some researchers have speculated that the city's location, perched high on a rocky outcrop overlooking the Mid-Kavari River, may have had profound symbolic significance. Could the river itself have been seen as a sacred element, a life-giving force that connected the people of Uplistsikhe with the gods? The site's proximity to other ancient cities and religious sites only adds to the sense that Uplistsikhe may have been part of a much larger cultural and spiritual network. Could there have been ancient knowledge or rituals practiced at Uplistsikhe that we have yet to fully uncover? Were there sacred rites performed on the cliffs themselves, linking the people to the land, the river, and the heavens? Despite centuries of exploration and excavation, the full story of Uplistsikhe remains hidden beneath layers of rock and time. While much has been uncovered, the true purpose of the fortress, the nature of its people's beliefs, and the mysterious reasons for its eventual decline continue to elude us. The temples, the grand halls, and the stone altars still stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten past. Each stone, each inscription, a piece of a puzzle that has yet to be solved. Standing among the ruins of Uplistsikhe today, it is impossible not to wonder what secrets still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. What was the true role of this ancient site, and what knowledge was once held within its stone walls? Was Uplistsikhe simply another ancient fortress, or was it something more, a spiritual center, a meeting place of cultures, or even a cosmic observatory whose true significance has yet to be fully understood? As the wind whispers through the rocks and the shadows stretch long across the river valley, the mysteries of Uplistsikhe remain, tantalizingly out of reach, waiting for the day when they might finally reveal their secrets. Tucked away in the northern regions of Syria, amid the rugged hills and valleys, lies a site that has confounded archaeologists and historians for decades: the ancient Ain Dara temple. Surrounded by the silence of the surrounding landscape, this site presents an air of mystery, with its massive, imposing ruins and peculiar, almost otherworldly design. The temple, dating back to around the 9th century BC, was built by the Arameans, a Semitic people who once dominated parts of the ancient Near East. But despite its impressive scale and remarkable craftsmanship, Ain Dara seems to be more than just a place of worship. It is a window into an ancient world filled with contradictions, spiritual depth, and unanswered questions. At first glance, Ain Dara resembles any other ancient temple complex, but there is something profoundly striking about it. The most immediately noticeable feature is its massive stone foundations, imposing walls that rise to frame a temple area that is perfectly aligned, yet unmistakably different from other ancient sites. The complex is built on a monumental scale, with huge stones meticulously stacked and shaped, many weighing several tons. What stands out most, however, are the footprints, carved into the very floor of the temple. These giant footprints, seemingly left behind by some celestial or divine presence, are scattered throughout the temple's inner sanctum, a feature that immediately sparks intrigue. Whose footprints are these, and what purpose do they serve? The most famous of these footprints lies at the entrance of the temple, where two impressions, each over a meter long, sit embedded in the stone, as if awaiting the return of the figure who left them. These footprints have intrigued archaeologists and visitors alike for years. The most obvious interpretation is that they belong to gods or divine figures, perhaps representations of the gods worshipped at the temple, whose presence was marked by the footprints they left behind. But why are they placed so prominently at the threshold of the temple? Are they merely symbolic representations, or do they signify something much deeper about the culture that created them? As we explore the ruins further, we find that Ain Dara's design itself is equally unusual. The layout of the temple complex features a long, narrow corridor that leads to a sanctuary, almost as if the structure was designed to channel something, whether energy, light, or even spirit. Inside, the remains of large, ornate columns line the space, hinting at the grandeur the temple must have once displayed. However, it is not just the architectural style that sets Ain Dara apart. It is the subtle yet deeply symbolic elements hidden within its walls. The reliefs carved into the stone, depicting mythological creatures, gods, and ceremonial symbols, suggest that the people of Ain Dara had an advanced understanding of religion and cosmology. The symbolism found at Ain Dara seems to speak to a unique spiritual philosophy, one that was perhaps rooted in an ancient belief system now lost to time. Among the carvings are depictions of winged deities, lions, and other animals, figures that appear frequently in Near Eastern art but with a distinct twist. The placement and proportions of these figures suggest that the people who built Ain Dara might have viewed these symbols as conduits to a higher realm, connecting the physical world to the divine. Were these gods protective deities, guarding the temple against evil forces? Or could these figures represent a cosmic order, with the entire temple complex acting as a model of the universe itself? But despite these fascinating glimpses into the spiritual life of the ancient Arameans, questions about the site's purpose remain. Ain Dara is unlike other known temples of the period. Traditionally, temples served as places of worship, where people gathered to offer sacrifices to their gods. Yet the size and design of Ain Dara suggest it may have been intended for a much grander purpose. Some have proposed that the temple might have served as a ritual center, a place where powerful rituals were performed to connect with the divine on a cosmic scale. The footprints, which seem to suggest a direct encounter with the gods, could indicate that this was a sacred space where the gods were thought to physically walk among the people. Was Ain Dara a place where divine beings walked the earth, interacting with humans in a way that other temples could not facilitate? Intriguingly, there are parallels between Ain Dara and other ancient Near Eastern religious sites, particularly those associated with Assyrian and Babylonian cultures. Some researchers have pointed out striking similarities between Ain Dara and the ziggurats, massive stepped temples built by the Babylonians and Sumerians. These structures, too, were aligned with the heavens and thought to act as a bridge between the earth and the gods. Could Ain Dara have been part of a broader tradition of temple construction that spanned the ancient Near East? Was it a regional variation on a much older concept, or did it represent something entirely unique to the Arameans? As the centuries passed, Ain Dara was abandoned. The temple fell into ruin, likely as a result of conflict in the region, possibly involving the Assyrians, who conquered much of the surrounding area in the 8th and 7th centuries BC. But even as the temple's physical form was dismantled, its legacy has endured. Its mystery still captivates archaeologists and visitors alike. The footprints and the unique design of the temple continue to defy explanation, raising questions about the people who built it and the cosmological beliefs that underpinned its creation. One of the most compelling aspects of Ain Dara is the way it blurs the lines between the divine and the human. The footprints, immense and seemingly supernatural, evoke a sense of an interaction between the divine world and the earthly realm. They suggest that the gods of Ain Dara were not distant and removed from human affairs, but were physically present in the temple itself. Could it be that the people who built Ain Dara truly believed that their gods walked among them, not in some abstract, symbolic sense, but in a real, tangible way? And what role did these beliefs play in the society that created them? Were the people of Ain Dara attempting to harness divine power through these symbolic footprints, or were they merely acknowledging a divine presence in their daily lives? Despite centuries of study, much about Ain Dara remains enigmatic. The exact identity of the gods worshipped here, the rituals performed within its walls, and the meaning behind the colossal footprints, all of these remain unresolved questions. The site's abandonment, the possible link to Assyrian expansion, and the sheer grandeur of the temple all hint at a much larger, more complex narrative, one that has yet to be fully uncovered. Standing before the temple ruins, one cannot help but wonder what secrets still lie hidden beneath the stone. What was the true significance of Ain Dara? Was it a place of divine communion, a spiritual meeting point where the gods walked among men? Or was it something else, something even more profound? Could there still be mysteries within the temple, waiting to be discovered? As we ponder these questions, the footprints at the entrance seem to suggest that the story of Ain Dara is far from finished, that its secrets are waiting to be uncovered, one step at a time. As you stand on the edge of Göreme National Park, the vastness of the landscape before you feels like something from a dream, or perhaps a forgotten memory of an ancient world. Stretching across Cappadocia in central Turkey, this extraordinary site is like no other place on Earth. Fairy chimneys, tall, spire-like rock formations, rise from the earth like sentinels, their jagged peaks piercing the sky. While in the distance, the remains of ancient rock-hewn churches and monasteries cling to the cliffs like something out of a time-worn legend. The soft tufa stone, formed from volcanic ash millions of years ago, has been sculpted by both the elements and human hands, creating a surreal landscape that seems to transcend time itself. In this place, history is not only a record of the past, but something that feels as if it is still alive, waiting to be discovered. Göreme National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is home to some of the most impressive rock-cut architecture in the world. Ancient Christian monasteries, churches, and houses carved directly into the rock face reveal a civilization that lived in close communion with the land around them. But even though much of the history of this remarkable place is well documented, there are still so many mysteries that remain, questions that cannot easily be answered. The cave dwellings, dating back as early as the 4th century AD, seem to whisper secrets of a time long past, when early Christians sought refuge from persecution and carved their homes into the very bones of the earth. Yet the origin and purpose of the larger, more intricate structures, those designed to look like churches, cathedrals, and temples, remain shrouded in mystery. What is perhaps most striking about Göreme is the level of craftsmanship involved in its construction. Unlike other ancient rock-cut dwellings, which were often crude and utilitarian, the churches and monasteries of Göreme are elegantly carved, with ceilings adorned with frescoes depicting biblical scenes and religious iconography. The frescoes, which cover the walls and ceilings of these sacred spaces, offer a glimpse into the spiritual life of the ancient people who once inhabited this region. But these frescoes, while remarkable, also raise more questions than answers. How did the early Christians here gain the knowledge to create such detailed and vibrant artwork? What artistic and religious influences shaped their work? And perhaps most intriguing of all, why did they choose to carve their churches and homes into the soft volcanic rock rather than build in a more conventional manner? It is here, amidst the complex of carved sanctuaries and hidden chapels, that the true enigma of Göreme begins to emerge. While many historians agree that the area was settled by early Christians seeking refuge from Roman and later Byzantine persecution, the significance of the underground cities and elaborate cave systems carved deep into the earth remains a subject of speculation. These underground structures, often spanning multiple levels, feature sophisticated systems of tunnels, staircases, and rooms designed for both living and worship. Some of these underground complexes are large enough to house thousands of people. Was Göreme merely a refuge, or was it something far grander, perhaps even a center for a cult or religious movement whose practices have been lost to history? Among the most famous sites within the park is the Dark Church, so named because the natural light rarely penetrates its interior. The walls are covered in extraordinarily well-preserved frescoes, vibrant depictions of saints, biblical stories, and Christian iconography. The state of preservation is remarkable. Some frescoes remain almost as bright as when they were first painted, despite centuries of neglect. These vivid scenes raise the question: how did early Christians manage to create such intricate works of art in such an isolated and remote location? What brought them here, and why did they choose to carve out entire religious complexes in the side of volcanic mountains? Some scholars suggest that these early Christian communities were drawn to the area because of its seclusion, offering protection from Roman authorities who sought to suppress the rise of Christianity. Others point to the geological properties of the landscape. Volcanic rock is relatively soft and can be easily carved into, allowing the inhabitants to create their complex underground sanctuaries with surprising ease. But these practical explanations don't entirely explain the depth of the mystery. For one, the scale and design of the cave churches and monasteries suggest a level of sophistication that would have required significant resources, knowledge, and planning. What drove these people to construct such elaborate, enduring structures in this seemingly inhospitable landscape? There are even those who speculate that Göreme and its underground cities were not just places of refuge for early Christians, but were part of something much more esoteric. Some theories suggest that the area may have been part of a larger network of spiritual or mystical communities, perhaps even connected to ancient mystery schools, esoteric traditions, or lost religious practices. The labyrinthine underground tunnels, the unique design of the structures, and the cosmic symbolism found in the frescoes have led some to propose that the people who carved these churches were practicing an ancient form of spiritual alchemy or ritual magic, a theory that remains highly speculative but undeniably intriguing. More recently, modern-day researchers have begun to examine the potential astronomical significance of the Göreme complex. Some have noted that the layout of the region, especially the positioning of certain churches and sanctuaries, appears to be carefully aligned with the sun and stars. Could the placement of these sacred spaces have been intended to mirror the cosmic forces they worshipped? The careful orientation of the church entrances, their precise alignment with the solstices or equinoxes, suggests that the ancient inhabitants of Göreme were deeply attuned to the movements of the heavens. Was this alignment a way to connect the earthly realm with the divine, or was it part of a more advanced system of astronomical worship? Perhaps the most perplexing aspect of Göreme is the unanswered question of its ultimate fate. By the time the Byzantine Empire began to crumble, much of the population had already abandoned the cave churches and monasteries. Was it due to political upheaval, or were the caves simply no longer seen as relevant? It is difficult to say with certainty. Some believe that as the Byzantine influence waned and new religious movements began to take hold, the ancient spiritual practices associated with Göreme were gradually replaced by newer ideologies. Yet the sheer scale of the complex, its expansive system of tunnels and interconnected structures, suggests that there is much more to the story than we have been able to uncover. Today, Göreme National Park stands as a testament to a forgotten past, one that continues to defy complete understanding. As visitors explore the ancient churches, monasteries, and labyrinthine tunnels, they are faced with a profound sense of wonder and curiosity. What were the true motivations of the people who created these awe-inspiring structures? What secrets do the ancient frescoes hold, and what knowledge did the builders of Göreme possess about the land, the heavens, and the universe itself? And perhaps most intriguingly, what else might still lie hidden beneath the volcanic rock, waiting to be uncovered? As we walk among the crumbling walls and feel the cool, ancient stone beneath our fingertips, the answers remain elusive. But the questions persist, and they echo through the chambers and tunnels of Göreme, as if the landscape itself is waiting to reveal its secrets, one stone at a time. In the rugged hills of Minorca, an island off the coast of Spain, there lies an ancient structure that has intrigued archaeologists and historians for centuries: the Naveta des Tudons. This mysterious stone monument, with its strikingly boat-shaped design, stands as a testament to a bygone era, its purpose and creators still largely a mystery. Rising against the landscape, the structure's massive stone walls seem to speak of an ancient people whose lives were deeply intertwined with both the land and the cosmos. Yet, despite extensive research and excavation, the true significance of the Naveta des Tudons remains unclear, leaving us with more questions than answers. The Naveta des Tudons is located in the northwestern part of Minorca, amid the dry, wind-swept terrain that characterizes much of the island. The monument is a megalithic tomb, constructed between the 1500 and 1000 BC during the Bronze Age, and it stands as one of the most well-preserved examples of its kind. The structure itself is an architectural marvel, a naveta, a term meaning boat-shaped due to its distinctive shape. The tomb is built from large, precisely cut stones that have been carefully stacked to form a narrow, sloping roof resembling the hull of a boat. Its design is not only visually striking but also functional, with the shape potentially representing the journey to the afterlife, reflecting a common theme in megalithic architecture across different ancient cultures. But what does this boat-like shape truly signify, and why was such a unique design chosen for a tomb? The Naveta des Tudons measures about 13 meters long and 6 meters wide, with the interior divided into two distinct levels. The lower level, where the majority of human remains were found, is where the ancient inhabitants of Minorca likely performed their burial rituals. The upper level of the tomb is more mysterious. Its purpose is less clear, and it has often been suggested that it was used for ceremonial purposes, possibly involving rituals or offerings to the dead. Yet, as is often the case with ancient structures, these interpretations remain speculative. Why were these two levels created? Were they simply a reflection of social hierarchy, with higher status individuals buried on the upper level? Or did the tomb serve a different, more spiritual purpose, marking the boundary between the material world and the spiritual realm? One of the most striking features of the Naveta des Tudons is the presence of human remains that have been discovered in and around the structure. In the early 20th century, a number of burial urns were uncovered, containing the remains of men, women, and children. These individuals had been cremated before being placed in the urns and interred in the tomb. But the burial practices at this site were far from conventional. For one, the remains were arranged in a manner that seems to suggest a deliberate ritualistic order, carefully positioned in groups according to age and gender. This has led some researchers to speculate that the Naveta des Tudons may have been more than just a tomb. It may have served as a communal burial site or even a family tomb, reflecting the complex social and cultural structure of the people who built it. The method of burial at the site also raises further questions. Cremation, followed by the collection and interment of the remains, was not the most common form of burial in the Mediterranean during the Bronze Age. Some researchers have proposed that this burial practice was tied to religious beliefs or customs associated with the afterlife. Could the people who built the Naveta des Tudons have believed in a journey after death, a passage to another realm that required the careful preparation of the body and soul? The boat-shaped design of the tomb might support such a theory, as it evokes the idea of a journey, whether by sea or across an unseen threshold. Was the tomb meant to serve as a kind of vessel for the soul, carrying the deceased across a spiritual sea into the afterlife? The idea of an afterlife journey, one in which the dead are sent on a voyage, is a motif that appears in several ancient cultures, including the Egyptians and Norse peoples. Could the people of Minorca have shared a similar belief? The mystery surrounding the Naveta des Tudons deepens when we consider the methods used in its construction. The tomb is made from massive stone blocks, many of which weigh several tons. The precision with which these stones were cut and stacked suggests that the builders possessed advanced knowledge of engineering and construction techniques. But how did the ancient people of Minorca, with their limited tools and technology, manage to construct such a monumental structure? The sheer effort required to quarry, transport, and arrange these massive stones raises the question, what motivated such a labor-intensive undertaking? Was it simply a matter of burying their dead, or did the construction of this tomb have a deeper, more profound purpose? Perhaps to reflect the power of the community or the connection between the people and the divine? Some researchers have suggested that the construction of the Naveta des Tudons was part of a larger ritualistic tradition, one that involved not just the physical construction of the tomb, but the creation of a sacred space intended to bridge the divide between the living and the dead. The people of Minorca might have viewed the tomb as a symbolic vessel, one that carried the spirits of the deceased to the other side. Could the boat shape have had a more profound meaning, one that tied the ancient islanders to an even older tradition of maritime beliefs or navigation across the waters of life and death? Given Minorca's position in the Mediterranean, it is not inconceivable that the people of the island had some connection to seafaring traditions, perhaps believing that death was itself a voyage to be undertaken. But the mystery does not end with the tomb's construction or its use. The exact identity of the people who built the Naveta des Tudons is also a subject of debate. While the structure is commonly attributed to the Bronze Age inhabitants of Minorca, it is unclear which culture or civilization was responsible. Some scholars suggest that it was the work of an early Indo-European people, while others believe it may have been the product of a more localized, pre-Indo-European society. Evidence of Celtic influence has also been proposed, as the island was later inhabited by the Celts. But even as the pieces of this puzzle come together, there are still gaps. The lack of written records from the time period makes it incredibly difficult to piece together the precise historical context in which the Naveta des Tudons was built. Were its creators part of a larger cultural network, or were they isolated from the rest of the Mediterranean world? The possibilities are numerous, yet no definitive answers have emerged. Today, the Naveta des Tudons stands as a monument to a distant past, its stone walls weathered by centuries of wind and rain, but its mystery enduring. As visitors walk among its towering stone walls, the questions remain. Questions about the people who built it, the beliefs they held, and the rituals that may have taken place within its walls. Was this tomb a simple burial site, or was it a sacred space, a vessel for the souls of the dead, meant to carry them on a journey to another world? And perhaps most perplexing of all, what other secrets might still be buried beneath the earth surrounding this ancient structure, waiting to be uncovered? The Naveta des Tudons remains one of the most significant and enigmatic monuments in Minorca, offering a glimpse into a distant, mysterious past. And as we reflect on this ancient tomb, we are left with the same question that has haunted archaeologists for centuries. What else lies hidden in the stones, waiting to reveal its secrets? At an altitude of over 12,000 feet, perched on the outskirts of the city of Cusco, Peru, lies one of the most awe-inspiring and enigmatic sites of the ancient world, Sacsayhuamán. This massive stone fortress, built by the Inca civilization between the 15th and early 16th centuries, has stood the test of time, enduring centuries of earthquakes, invasions, and the erosion of history. The ruins of Sacsayhuamán, with their perfectly fitted stone walls, continue to captivate anyone who visits, leaving us with more questions than answers. How was it built? What was its purpose? And perhaps most perplexing of all, how did the Incas, without the use of mortar, manage to construct such a monumental structure with stones so large, some weighing several tons? The walls of Sacsayhuamán are formed by massive blocks of limestone, some weighing as much as 130 tons, and they fit together so perfectly that even a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. The craftsmanship is so precise that the stones seem to have been sculpted to fit seamlessly, with no apparent gaps. In places, the stones appear to interlock like puzzle pieces, defying modern engineering understanding of how such an achievement could be possible with the tools and technology available at the time. Even today, centuries later, this remarkable precision continues to baffle researchers and engineers alike. Was it sheer ingenuity and skill that enabled the Incas to construct such a monument? Or is there something more mysterious at play? While the site is attributed to the Inca Empire, it is important to note that the exact methods used to build Sacsayhuamán remain unclear. Traditional explanations suggest that the Incas employed simple tools, such as hammers, chisels, and ropes to shape the massive stones, while workers would have used sheer human strength to move them into place. Yet the complexity of the stonework at Sacsayhuamán challenges this explanation. How did the Incas transport these enormous stones, many of which were sourced from quarries miles away? The logistical challenges alone are daunting, yet there is no definitive record explaining how they achieved it. Adding to the mystery is the lack of mortar. The Incas did not use the binding agent that most other ancient cultures relied on to hold their structures together. Instead, the massive stones fit so tightly that it is almost as though they were custom-shaped for one another. Some stones are even slightly curved, adding to the enigma. Did the Incas have access to a form of advanced technology, perhaps unknown to history, that allowed them to manipulate and shape these massive blocks so perfectly? Or is there a hidden cultural knowledge that has been lost over the centuries, a form of craftsmanship that has yet to be fully understood? Some researchers have proposed that the stones may not have been carved in the traditional sense at all, but rather melted into shape. This theory suggests that the Incas, or perhaps an earlier civilization, had access to a method of shaping stones using intense heat, a process that would have allowed the stones to be softened and then molded into the precise forms required for construction. However, there is little physical evidence to support this hypothesis, and it remains a fringe theory, though it raises compelling questions about the true extent of ancient technology and knowledge. Beyond the engineering marvel of the walls, there is also the question of purpose. Sacsayhuamán is often described as a fortress, and while it is clear that the site was strategically positioned to overlook the surrounding valley, its exact role is still debated. Some scholars argue that it was a military stronghold, designed to protect the city of Cusco and its rulers from potential invaders. Others suggest that it may have had a religious or ceremonial function, serving as a place for rituals and gatherings related to the worship of the sun god, Inti. The walls themselves have been interpreted by some as a reflection of the cosmic order, a physical manifestation of the Inca worldview, which saw the earth and sky as interconnected. There is evidence to suggest that Sacsayhuamán may have been used in ceremonial rituals, including religious festivals and processions. The site features large terraces and wide open spaces, which may have been used for public gatherings or for rituals related to the sun and the cycles of nature. Some researchers even propose that the massive stones may have had astronomical significance, aligning with the movements of the stars or the sun, as was common in other ancient cultures. But was Sacsayhuamán truly a temple or a fortress, or perhaps both? Or was it something entirely different, an ancient gathering place where the Inca rulers would have made decisions that would shape the fate of their empire? What is certain is that Sacsayhuamán was a symbol of power and prestige for the Inca civilization, and its strategic location would have made it an imposing landmark. But as we examine the mysteries of this site, we must also ask, why was it constructed with such extraordinary care and attention to detail? What did the Incas believe about their relationship with the natural world, the gods, and the cosmos that would inspire such an ambitious undertaking? There are also intriguing theories about the origins of Sacsayhuamán that go beyond the Inca Empire. Some suggest that the site may have been built by a pre-Inca culture, with the Incas later adopting and adapting it as part of their own religious and political practices. There are even theories that propose Sacsayhuamán could have been constructed by a civilization with knowledge that predates the Incas, a civilization lost to time and memory. Could the Incas have inherited knowledge from a more ancient culture, one that possessed advanced architectural and engineering techniques that have since been lost to history? Given the site's sheer scale, complexity, and seemingly mystical qualities, it's not surprising that Sacsayhuamán has become the subject of many fringe theories. Some propose that it was constructed with the aid of extraterrestrial beings, whose technology and influence were used to help create the site's impressive structures. While this theory is unsupported by any concrete evidence, it speaks to the awe and wonder that Sacsayhuamán continues to inspire in those who visit it. Could it be that the knowledge and skill required to build such a structure came from a source beyond our understanding, an unknown civilization, or even a lost technological age? Perhaps the most profound mystery surrounding Sacsayhuamán lies not just in how it was built, but in the sheer significance of the site. What did it represent to the people who constructed it? Was it a symbol of their belief in the divine order, the relationship between earth and sky, or the eternal nature of the Inca Empire? Or was it a reflection of the political and military power of the Incas, designed to display their dominance and strength to both their people and their enemies? As we stand before the towering walls of Sacsayhuamán, with its carefully cut stones and its quiet, imposing presence, the questions only deepen. The site continues to whisper of ancient mysteries, hidden meanings, and long-forgotten rituals. What knowledge was lost with the fall of the Inca Empire? What stories do the stones still hold, waiting for someone to decipher them? And as we peer into the past, we must ask, what other secrets might lie buried in the stones of Sacsayhuamán, waiting to be uncovered? In the northernmost reaches of the British Isles, where the winds blow cold and the seas stretch out endlessly to the horizon, there exists an ancient structure that has baffled historians and archaeologists for centuries, the Broch of Gurness. This impressive Iron Age monument, located on the Orkney Islands off the coast of Scotland, stands as a towering reminder of a long-lost civilization. It's a structure that raises profound questions about the people who built it, their way of life, and their connections to the wider world. How did such a monumental building come to be constructed in this remote corner of the ancient world? What was its true purpose, and why does it remain so enigmatic even today? The Broch of Gurness is an imposing circular tower made of stone, rising 15 meters above the surrounding landscape. Its walls, made from massive stones stacked with incredible precision, taper inward toward the top, forming a conical shape that is both functional and formidable. The Broch stands in a sweeping landscape, with views over the North Sea and the surrounding islands, a location that would have been strategic for the people who lived there. This tower is not merely a solitary monument, but is part of a much larger settlement, with stone houses, courtyards, and narrow alleyways radiating outward from the central broch. Today, much of the site has been excavated, but what lies beneath the surface remains largely a mystery. The broch itself is a striking example of Iron Age architecture, designed to be both a fortified residence and a symbol of status. Brochs like Gurness were constructed between the 1st century BC and the 1st century AD, during a time when communities in the British Isles and the far north of Europe were increasingly engaged in complex social, political, and trade networks. Yet, despite the broch's imposing stature, much about its purpose remains speculative. Was it a fortress designed to protect its inhabitants from rival groups? Or was it a social and political center, where the elite could exercise control and maintain a dominant position in society? The Broch of Gurness is constructed with 2 concentric walls, the outer wall, which encloses the entire settlement, and the inner, more robust wall that forms the structure of the broch itself. The inner wall contains a series of rooms and passageways, each carefully designed for a specific function. The spiral staircases that once led to the upper levels of the broch are now gone, but the thickness of the walls suggests that the broch was designed to be a multi-story structure, offering both protection and comfort to those inside. The inhabitants likely had access to wide views of the surrounding coastline, a practical advantage in a world where maritime trade and the movement of goods were vital to the survival of communities. But the design of the broch itself is not the only source of intrigue. What is even more fascinating are the remains of the settlement that surround it. The houses and buildings are arranged in an irregular fashion, with narrow alleyways connecting them, almost as if the settlement was laid out organically rather than following a predetermined plan. This arrangement suggests that the people who lived at Gurness were accustomed to a level of flexibility in their daily lives, moving between the various parts of the settlement in ways that are now difficult to reconstruct. It is possible that the settlement was a community-based society, where the walls of the broch served as a symbol of unity, a stronghold for the collective identity of the people who lived there. But was it also a place of ritual significance, a site where the lives of the inhabitants were closely tied to their relationship with the natural world, with the sea, and with the gods they believed controlled their fate? When examining the site more closely, one cannot ignore the unusual features that have been found at the Broch of Gurness. For instance, the structure seems to have been designed with an unusual emphasis on light and shadow. Researchers have speculated that the broch may have had some form of astronomical significance, designed to align with celestial events or the changing of the seasons. The presence of intricate carvings and stone circles in and around the site suggests that the inhabitants of Gurness may have engaged in ritualistic practices related to their understanding of the cosmos. Was the broch's architecture designed to track the solstices, the passage of time, or celestial alignments? Could this have been a sacred space, not just a fortress, but a place of spiritual and cultural meaning for the people who called it home? Some researchers have even suggested that the broch may have functioned as a social center, where rituals and ceremonies were performed, possibly involving ritual feasting and the exchange of goods. This theory is bolstered by the discovery of artifacts such as pottery, stone tools, and animal bones found at the site. The sheer volume of these artifacts implies that Gurness was a place of sustained human activity, where people gathered for purposes beyond mere survival. But what exactly did these rituals involve? Was the broch a site of ancient kingship or tribal power, where leaders and their followers engaged in elaborate ceremonies designed to maintain social order and ensure prosperity? There is also the possibility that the broch at Gurness was more than just a symbol of power and prestige. Some have speculated that it may have been a site of ritual burial, a place where the dead were honored and sent on their journey into the afterlife. The discovery of human remains at other Broch sites throughout the Orkney Islands suggests that the structure could have served not just as a home, but as a final resting place for the elite of the society. Was the Broch a place where the living and the dead coexisted in a kind of spiritual harmony? Could the towering walls and intricate design have served to create a connection between the two worlds, the world of the living and the world of the ancestors? Yet, despite the many theories, there is no consensus on the ultimate purpose of the Broch of Gurness. Was it a purely functional fortress, designed for defense in a time of political unrest, or did it have a deeper, more symbolic significance? And perhaps even more troubling, why did the Broch fall into disrepair? Archaeologists have found no signs of a dramatic destruction or invasion that might explain its abandonment, leaving open the possibility that the decline of Gurness was the result of internal change, a shift in social or political dynamics that led to the eventual collapse of the settlement. The absence of written records from the time adds another layer of mystery to the Broch of Gurness. Unlike some other ancient structures, which are recorded in texts or oral traditions, Gurness has left us with only its stones, its ruins, and the faint echoes of a long-forgotten past. The lack of definitive answers only deepens the intrigue. Were the people who built Gurness part of a wider, complex civilization, perhaps one that was part of a broader trade network across northern Europe? Or were they a group of people who operated on the fringes of the known world, creating a culture that was as isolated as it was advanced? As we gaze upon the imposing walls of the Broch of Gurness, we are left with a sense of wonder. Wonder about the people who lived here, about their beliefs, and about the mysteries they left behind. The stones speak to us across time, yet their true meaning remains elusive. Was this a place of power, a fortress, or a sacred site? Could it have served all of these purposes, or was there another explanation entirely, one that we have yet to uncover? The mystery of the Broch of Gurness endures, a symbol of a civilization that still holds its secrets close and invites us to wonder what might still lie hidden beneath its weathered stones. Nestled in the quiet, rural landscapes of western France, in the region of Poitou-Charentes, lies a monumental site that seems to have risen out of the earth itself, the Tumulus of Bougon. Unlike the imposing stone structures or elaborate temples of other ancient civilizations, this prehistoric burial mound is a quiet, mysterious reminder of a long-forgotten past. Standing in front of it, the site is almost unassuming, with gentle hills covered in grass and wildflowers, and the air thick with the sounds of nature. Yet beneath this serene landscape lies a complex and mysterious monument that continues to challenge our understanding of early human society in Europe. The Tumulus of Bougon is not a single burial mound, but rather a complex of mounds, 5 large structures arranged in a loose semicircular formation that were constructed during the Neolithic period. Dating back to around 4,500 BC, these mounds contain what are some of the most elaborate tombs from the ancient world. As you approach the site, the first thing you notice is the magnitude of the mounds. Though some have been eroded over millennia, they still rise majestically from the ground, hinting at the grandiosity of the original construction. Even today, some of the tumuli stand nearly 10 meters high and span several hundred meters in diameter, suggesting that this was a place of significant ritual and social importance. The most famous of these mounds is the largest tumulus, the Tumulus de Bougon, which contains a series of stone chambers that were used to house the remains of the dead. These chambers are remarkably well constructed, with large stone slabs fitted together with stunning precision. Inside these chambers, archaeologists have found a wealth of artifacts, pottery, stone tools, and decorated items, some of which suggest that the tombs were not just places for burial, but also for the preservation of a people's identity, their rituals, and their social status. The construction of these tumuli is impressive in its own right, but it is the purpose of the Tumulus of Bougon that truly invites curiosity. Why were these burial mounds built so grandly? Who were the people who created them, and what did they believe about death, the afterlife, and their place in the world? Could the Tumulus of Bougon be a sacred site? A place where the living and the dead coexisted in some form of ritualistic harmony? Or was it something more practical, a dynastic burial complex for powerful leaders, where the elite were interred with the trappings of their worldly power? The evidence suggests both possibilities, but the absence of written records from this period leaves us with only fragmented clues and theories. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Tumulus of Bougon is the construction method itself. The sheer scale of these mounds would have required a tremendous amount of effort and resources. Yet there are no definitive records indicating how the Neolithic people of this region, who lacked advanced tools or machinery, were able to move such massive stones and earth. The people who built the tumuli were likely part of the late Neolithic agricultural society, a time when people were transitioning from a nomadic, hunter-gatherer lifestyle to more settled farming communities. The mounds were constructed with earth and stone, but how did these people move such massive rocks? Some archaeologists speculate that they used wooden sledges and rolls of logs to transport the stones, while others suggest that they may have had some form of primitive crane or lifting mechanism to place the heavy stones with precision. Could it be that the people of Bougon possessed skills and methods that were lost to time? Or were they simply working with an ingenious system that we have yet to fully comprehend? The burial chambers within the tumuli are another source of fascination. The walls of these chambers were constructed from large stone slabs, and inside, archaeologists have uncovered human remains and items of significance: pottery, jewelry, tools, and bones. What stands out, however, is the level of care that went into the burial process. The bodies were carefully arranged, often in a fetal position, suggesting that the people of Bougon placed significant meaning in the way their dead were treated. The decorated pottery and tools buried alongside the bodies speak to a culture that valued craftsmanship and artistry, suggesting that the people of this region had a complex understanding of their cultural identity and how they wished to be remembered in the afterlife. Could it be that these tumuli were not simply burial sites, but ritual centers where the living performed ceremonies to honor the dead, marking a deep connection between life, death, and the cosmos? The evidence suggests that there was an active and ongoing relationship between the living and the dead, one that may have been vital to the spiritual beliefs of these ancient people. Why were the dead buried in such a monumental way? Was it to ensure their journey into the afterlife, or to show their continued importance within the community, even after death? Beyond the religious or ceremonial explanations, there are also questions surrounding the social structure of the people who built the Tumulus of Bougon. The monumental scale of the tombs suggests that these people were not merely farmers or simple laborers. The labor required to build these massive structures would have necessitated a highly organized society, one with a hierarchical system that was capable of mobilizing resources and manpower on a large scale. Was the Tumulus of Bougon the burial site of an elite class, perhaps rulers or chieftains, whose power extended over large tracts of land and other communities? Or was it a collective burial site for a community that believed in the power of shared identity and kinship, where the entire group came together to create a symbol of unity and strength? One particularly mysterious element of the tumulus is the presence of distinctive artifacts that hint at external influences. Some of the pottery found at the site has been traced to regions far beyond the Poitou-Charentes, raising the possibility that the people of Bougon were part of a wider trade network spanning much of Europe. Did the builders of the Tumulus of Bougon have contact with distant cultures? Could they have been part of a larger civilizational exchange, one that crossed borders and mingled beliefs, technologies, and traditions? Or is it more likely that these artifacts were the result of the local exchange of goods between neighboring tribes or groups? As with many aspects of the site, the answer remains unclear. Adding further complexity to the mystery is the shift in the structure of burial practices in later centuries. By the time the tumuli were abandoned, the cultural practices of the people of Bougon had changed significantly. New burial methods emerged, with a greater focus on individuality rather than collective memorialization. What caused this shift? Was it a change in spiritual beliefs? Or was it simply a reflection of the broader social changes taking place across Europe at the time? As we consider the Tumulus of Bougon, it's clear that this site holds more than just the remains of ancient people. It holds the secrets of a culture, its beliefs, its social structure, and its understanding of the world. It stands as a monument to those who constructed it, a symbol of their visionary architecture, their spirituality, and their desire to leave a lasting legacy. Yet, despite the wealth of information that has been uncovered, much about the Tumulus of Bougon remains elusive. Could the tumulus reveal even more about the ancient cultures that shaped it? If only we had more evidence, more answers. As we gaze upon the rolling mounds, we are left with the same questions that have surrounded this enigmatic site for centuries. What did the people of Bougon truly believe? What secrets remain buried within the tumuli, hidden in the very stones themselves, waiting to be uncovered by future generations? And perhaps most intriguing of all, what else remains to be discovered about this ancient place of power, mystery, and ritual? Deep in the dense jungle of Guatemala, amid the shadow of towering trees and thick vegetation, lies a forgotten city, a city that once flourished under the ancient Maya civilization. The ruins of Uaxactun, though less famous than the more widely known Tikal, hold a story as profound and mysterious as any of the great Maya cities. Standing as a silent witness to a once vibrant society, Uaxactun is not just a place to study ancient architecture or uncover forgotten artifacts. It is a place that challenges our understanding of time, astronomy, and the rise and fall of civilizations. As you approach Uaxactun, you first encounter the remnants of its monumental structures rising from the dense undergrowth. The Acropolis stands as the heart of the ancient city, an elevated platform of towering stone, with the remains of ceremonial temples and pyramids visible in the distance. The architecture here, like much of the Maya world, is an intricate weave of precision and power, blocks of stone cut with incredible accuracy and fitted together in ways that seem beyond the capability of simple stone tools. The weathered stones have withstood the centuries of tropical rains, overgrown foliage, and time itself, yet they still speak of a once great civilization. But what's immediately striking about Uaxactun is not just the grandeur of its buildings, but the layout of the city itself. Unlike many other Maya cities, where buildings and plazas are arranged in more conventional patterns, Uaxactun appears to have been constructed with a focus on astronomical alignments. The city is marked by a series of structures that seem to echo celestial patterns. Temples aligned with the rising and setting of the sun, pyramids oriented toward specific stars, and evidence of sophisticated astronomical calendars. Uaxactun was a city deeply intertwined with the rhythms of the cosmos, where the passage of time was not just observed but worshipped, a central part of the Maya worldview. Among the most striking features of the site are the E-group structures, which consist of a central platform surrounded by 3 low buildings, perfectly aligned with the sunrise on certain dates. These E-groups are not unique to Uaxactun. Similar structures have been found throughout the Maya lowlands, suggesting a shared understanding of the importance of astronomical events. But at Uaxactun, the alignment of the structures seems particularly precise, almost as if the Maya architects were designing a cosmic observatory, a way to measure the movement of the sun, the stars, and the changing of the seasons. Were these structures built to help the Maya track time with unparalleled accuracy? Or was there a deeper, more spiritual significance to these alignments? The alignment with celestial events was not merely a scientific endeavor. The Maya had a deep connection to the stars and the planets, which they believed held the power to influence their lives. At Uaxactun, evidence of sophisticated calendar systems, particularly the long count calendar, suggests that the people here had an advanced understanding of timekeeping. This calendar, which is perhaps best known for predicting the end of a world cycle in 2012, was central to the Maya civilization's relationship with the cosmos. It was more than just a tool for measuring time. It was a way to connect the movements of the heavens with human events, to predict the future, and to mark the passage of important moments in their spiritual and political life. Did the Maya of Uaxactun believe that their very existence was linked to the motions of the stars? Was their society built on the idea that by aligning with the cosmos, they could ensure prosperity and defend against the forces of darkness? Yet, while the astronomy of Uaxactun is awe-inspiring, it also raises troubling questions. The city was not always in the public eye of history. It seems to have been one of the earliest centers of the Maya civilization, predating even the rise of Tikal and the classic Maya period by centuries. Uaxactun flourished as early as 300 BC, but by 900 AD it had seemingly fallen into decline, abandoned in the thick jungles of the Paytan region. Why did the people of Uaxactun abandon this monumental site after it had stood for so long? Was the city's focus on astronomy and the gods' favor enough to stave off the pressures of time and war, or was something else at play? The decline of Uaxactun remains one of its most intriguing and perplexing mysteries. Unlike some other Maya sites, where the decline can be linked to external invaders, such as the forces of rival kingdoms or the Spanish conquest, the fall of Uaxactun is more ambiguous. There are no clear indications of violent warfare, no signs of a collapse marked by mass graves or abandoned temples. Instead, it seems that the city simply faded, lost to the impenetrable forest. Could it have been the result of climate change, as some archaeologists have suggested, where shifts in the environment led to droughts that made life unsustainable in the region? Or could the city have been abandoned as a result of internal social unrest, perhaps brought on by the very religious and astronomical obsessions that the city had been built upon? One of the more speculative theories posits that the city's downfall may have been tied to a cosmic catastrophe, a belief rooted in the Maya's own understanding of the universe. The Maya believed that the universe went through cycles of creation and destruction, and it is possible that the people of Uaxactun interpreted an astronomical event, perhaps the eclipses, a planetary alignment, or a comet, as a harbinger of doom, prompting them to abandon the city in fear of an impending apocalypse. The idea that an entire civilization could collapse based on a cosmic event reflects the profound importance that celestial phenomena held for the Maya. It is possible that Uaxactun was abandoned due to the belief that they had lost favor with the gods, or perhaps because they felt they could not align themselves properly with the changing forces of the heavens. Did they abandon the city voluntarily because they believed they were out of alignment with the stars? Or was it simply a matter of survival as the natural world turned against them? As we look at the ruins of Uaxactun today, we are left with a sense of mystery. The city's advanced knowledge of astronomy, its unique layout, and its importance within the broader Maya world suggest that Uaxactun was a place of great power and significance. But the reasons for its abandonment and its eventual disappearance remain elusive. Did the people of Uaxactun leave behind a legacy that still holds secrets about their beliefs, their social structures, and their connection to the cosmos? Or did the passage of time erase the truth, leaving only remnants of a once great city hidden beneath the jungle canopy? Perhaps, as we peer through the dense foliage and consider the empty plazas and weathered temples of Uaxactun, we must ask ourselves, what knowledge might still lie buried beneath the roots of these ancient trees? What remains of the Maya's understanding of the stars and their place in the cosmos, and could those answers still be waiting to be discovered? If only we had the keys to unlock them. In the heart of ancient Cyprus, a hidden treasure lies in the form of an enigmatic burial site that has long puzzled archaeologists, historians, and explorers alike. Known as the Tomb of the Kings, this extraordinary necropolis stands in stark contrast to its name. It was not the tomb of a single king or a legendary ruler, but rather a vast mausoleum complex that served as the final resting place for a select elite from the Hellenistic and Roman periods. The tombs, carved into the rock itself and adorned with impressive architectural features, reveal a deep connection between the people of Cyprus and the divine, the rulers, and the very earth they walked upon. Nestled just outside the modern city of Paphos, the Tomb of the Kings is an imposing sight, set against the backdrop of rugged cliffs and the endless expanse of the Mediterranean Sea. As you approach the tombs, you might be struck by the vastness of the complex. The sheer size and number of the burial chambers appear to be an architectural feat, yet mysteriously out of place. The tombs are not royal in the traditional sense, for the names of the buried here remain largely unknown. However, the elaborate design of the tombs suggests that they were built for individuals of significant importance, not simply wealthy citizens, but perhaps high-ranking officials, noble families, or those of political power. The tombs were carved into the limestone rock, and each one is remarkably elaborate, with grand courtyards, columns, and open chambers that seem to invite the observer to step inside and contemplate the lives of the ancient inhabitants of Cyprus. What stands out about the Tomb of the Kings is its architectural sophistication. Unlike many ancient tombs, which are often simplistic and functional, these burial sites are monumental, designed to mimic the grandeur of a palace or temple. Some of the tombs are equipped with elaborate courtyards, pillared halls, and even Greek-style columns, suggesting that the tombs were meant to impress, to honor the dead, and perhaps to maintain a connection between the living and the gods. The construction of these tombs also raises an immediate question. Why were they built in such a manner? Why go to the trouble of constructing such a monumental complex, complete with carefully carved stone reliefs and ornate decorations, when the tombs were meant to house the dead and not the living? The tombs themselves tell a story of a society that had a sophisticated understanding of life, death, and the afterlife. But these tombs also harbor an intriguing enigma. Who were the people buried here? Why were they given such an elaborate final resting place? One common explanation suggests that the tombs were the burial places of high-ranking individuals, possibly officials who served under the Ptolemaic rulers of Cyprus in the Hellenistic period. However, this theory raises more questions than it answers. If these tombs were for royalty or noble families, why are there no inscriptions? Why do we have so little historical documentation to tie these tombs to specific individuals? Some tombs remain blank, without names, titles, or even clear markers of who was interred inside. The absence of such records has led some to believe that these tombs may have been used by multiple generations, their identities obscured over time. And yet, despite the mysteries surrounding the tombs themselves, what truly captivates those who visit the Tomb of the Kings is the ambience of the place, an atmosphere that seems steeped in the power of the past. It is not just the architecture that draws the visitor in, but the silence, the quiet sense of reverence that pervades the site. The tombs are eerily empty, their once grand chambers now hollowed out by centuries of time, looting, and erosion. Yet there is something imposing and almost alive about the site. What could the people who built these tombs have believed? The grandeur of the tombs and the skill of the builders suggest a profound belief in an afterlife. The very idea of placing the dead in such splendid mausoleums hints at a society that saw death not as an end, but as part of an ongoing journey, a journey that could only be made with the proper rites, offerings, and markers of status. But even as the architecture suggests a society of considerable wealth and artistic achievement, there are questions that linger. Why are the tombs so elaborate yet so sparsely decorated? The lack of extensive carvings, paintings, or inscriptions is striking. Some believe that the tombs were deliberately left incomplete or understated, possibly due to a shift in religious or cultural practices over time. Could the tombs have been created for a more spiritual purpose than merely showcasing wealth or power? If these tombs were built as places of ritual and burial for the elite, then why was there no effort to display their power or wealth in more traditional ways, such as through lavish decoration or extensive burial goods? Was there perhaps a deeper spiritual significance that we have yet to understand? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Tomb of the Kings is the presence of mysterious objects found within the tombs, as well as evidence of ritualistic practices. Archaeologists have uncovered fragments of pottery, tools, and ceremonial items that seem to point to a belief system intertwined with both Greek and indigenous Cypriot traditions. Some tombs contain sarcophagi, yet others are empty, leaving the question open. Were the bodies of the dead moved or removed at some point in history, perhaps during the Byzantine period, when religious shifts could have led to the desecration or repurposing of such sites? Or were the tombs originally built with the intentional absence of physical remains, indicating a ritualistic preference for the symbolic over the physical? While some tombs within the necropolis show evidence of looting, an unfortunate part of the tomb's long history, others remain largely untouched, their interiors left open to the elements and the passage of time. The tombs were designed to be opened, to allow both the living and the dead to interact, to honor the memory of those who had passed. Yet it's the unexplained absence of so many records and the relative scarcity of grave goods that continues to evoke suspicion. Did the tomb builders leave their sites open and incomplete intentionally? Was there a deliberate move to leave these tombs as silent witnesses to a larger spiritual truth? Could it be that the crypts were not intended to house the dead, but rather hold the living in perpetual awe, as a reminder of what came before and what might yet come again? The mystery of the Tomb of the Kings deepens further when we examine its location. Set just outside the bustling ancient city of Paphos, the site was not far from the Mediterranean coast, where ancient travelers and merchants passed through regularly. Was this location chosen for its proximity to the sea, perhaps as a gateway between the realms of the living and the dead? The fact that many of the tombs are open to the sky suggests a ritualistic importance connected to the heavens, with celestial alignments possibly playing a role in determining the best time for rituals, burials, and prayers. Over the centuries, much of the material wealth that would have once filled the tombs has been lost to time, but the bones of mystery remain. What ancient truths lie buried beneath the layers of earth and stone? What rituals, beliefs, and sacred rites were performed within these tombs, and why have we not yet uncovered their full story? The Tomb of the Kings is a reminder that, even in death, a civilization may leave behind more questions than answers. What stories do the tombs of Paphos still have to tell? What might we uncover about the people who created this extraordinary site and the beliefs that inspired its construction? In the silence of the tombs, the past lingers, inviting us to wonder about the rituals and beliefs of those long gone. Could it be that, with further investigation and time, the true mystery of the Tomb of the Kings will come to light?